Take revenge on my wife for me.
These were the startling words in a letter I received from my dearly departed son, just 13 days after his sudden passing. He had been living a happy, married life.
Take revenge on my wife for me.
Below the written words, there was an address I did not recognize. John, are you telling me to go to this place? As I pondered, tears stopped, but cold sweat broke out. I couldn't imagine my son, John, ever speaking of revenge. What drove him to this point? What could I possibly discover at this address? I had been shut inside my home since a funeral ended, but I quickly left my house. I was so absorbed that I even forgot to put on makeup. But that didn't matter. I wanted to fulfill my beloved son's wish. With a single-minded focus, I hurried to the address written in the letter. The place John specified in his letter was a rental storage facility, a bit away from our home. Among the rows of warehouses, I found the one with the number mentioned in the letter. I inserted the thin, small key attached to the letter into the lock and opened the door of the warehouse. The small room, about the size of 100 square feet max, was dimly lit and slightly musty, despite it being daytime. When I pressed the switch next to the door, the bare fluorescent light buzzed and lit up the interior. What is this? Instinctive fear took hold of me, and my entire body started trembling. My name is Susan Garcia. I am a 54-year-old part-time employee. I lost my beloved husband 20 years ago. He mentioned feeling slightly unwell and then passed away shortly after. It was so sudden, I still find it hard to believe. He wasn't seriously ill and always had regular health checkups. Yet, he left me and our son, John. Since my husband's death, it was just John and me. Back then, John was still in elementary school, struggling more than anyone with his father's sudden departure. My in-laws frequently visited to help with John. Responding to our feelings, it seemed like John was desperately trying to hide his loneliness from not having a father. Far from that, John often encouraged me when I became panicked. "Mom, it's okay, I'm here." His young voice still echoes in my ears to this day. After losing my husband, I started working part-time to raise John, trying to forget the sorrow with the busyness of daily life. He never said anything about me being frequently away from home due to my busy job. Despite being lonely himself, he never complained and continued to encourage me. I gradually overcame my grief, responding to John's support. During his high school years, John began working part-time to help with our finances. He worked while balancing his studies, not wanting to overburden me. He did well academically, often praised by teachers at parent-teacher conference. I am thankful every day for how well he grew up despite losing his father. After graduating high school, John immediately started working. He had good enough grades for any university, but probably considering me, he made his decision. Saying, "I'm tired of studying," he started working at a small local factory. Being naturally smart, John quickly learned the ropes and was well liked by everyone there. Despite the physical demands, he seemed fulfilled every day. About 6 months later, John got a girlfriend. Previously a homebody on his days off, he started going out almost every weekend. As a mom, I felt a bit lonely, but I was also relieved that my son at that age had found someone. Above all, John looked happy, and that made me glad. He had always been considerate of me, supporting me. I hope he thinks of his own happiness now. I watched over his relationship from a distance. When John turned 27, he decided to get married. His fiancée was a woman 2 years his senior named Sarah. When they got engaged, Sarah came along with John to meet me. She was a striking beauty with distinct features, a contrast to the rather plain John. I was surprised not only that John brought such a woman home, but also that they met at a social drinking event. I was surprised by this unknown side of my beloved son, but I didn't have a bad impression of Sarah. She worked in sales at a cosmetics company. Maybe it was her job, but she was a great conversationalist, and our meeting ended on a pleasant note. Soon after, they got married, and John moved out to live with Sarah.
Mom, are you sure you'll be okay alone? It's still within the county, but a bit far.
John worried about me until the last minute before moving. Sarah too seemed concerned about me living alone, and there was serious talk about us living together at one point. I appreciated their kindness, but I couldn't burden John any further. I politely declined their offer and celebrated their new life together. John still visited me often, but he started to lose weight, seemingly stressed from his job change. He chose a new job closer to Sarah's workplace, but it seemed to be tough on him. Unlike the small factory, the unfamiliar sales job was probably causing him stress and affecting his appetite. Haven't you lost weight? It's good to work hard, but it's serious if you ruin your health. Every time he came home, I would say that to John, but he would just reply, I'm fine, with no intention of changing jobs. I assumed his job was the only stressor, but it took me a while to realize there was more to it. Sarah, since he won't listen to me, could you talk to him? He's so stubborn. 3 years after John and Sarah got married, John turned 30. By that time, John's complexion had worsened, and he seemed to be at the brink of his physical limits. I repeatedly asked him, why don't you change jobs without overstraining yourself? But John stubbornly refused. It could be because of his marriage to Sarah that he feels he can't quit his job right now out of a sense of responsibility. Unable to bear it, I reached out to Sarah, asking her to persuade John to consider a job change. Sarah, visibly worried about John's declining health, tearfully apologized to me, and she was saying, "It was my fault." "It's not your fault, Sarah. John has always been a hard worker and tends to overdo things, but I think he'll listen more if it comes from you." But I was not gonna lie, I was somewhat irritated with Sarah. Despite my repeated requests to take care of John, she seemed to do nothing but only apologize. I couldn't blame her directly, so I could only watch as John continued to decline. Several days after contacting Sarah, I still hadn't heard anything from her. She should know how worried I am. I thought she should give me at least an update. Due to worrying about John, I find myself getting irritated over trivial things. Calming myself down, I decided to reach out and contact her myself. "Hey, Sarah, have you talked to John about what we discussed?" I asked cautiously. After a brief pause, an unbelievable response came from her. No, it wasn't words I heard on the phone. It was a click of the tongue. On the other end, Sarah definitely made that sound.
"I'm sorry, Susan, but I'm also busy with work. I'm keeping a close eye on John's health. Aren't you being a bit overprotective? If he says he's okay, then he must be okay."
Sarah retorted with irritation. This tone was unlike the Sarah I knew, but it was undeniably her. Had she been pretending until now? Stunned into silence, I heard Sarah regain some composure.
"Sorry, I'm just worried and getting frustrated too."
Despite her attempts to smooth things over, my guard against her didn't drop. For the first time, I sensed danger from Sarah. John might be in danger with her. An awful premonition raced through my mind, but with John himself saying nothing, I couldn't interfere in his affairs with Sarah. He was due to visit in a few days, so maybe I should ask him more directly then. Could he be troubled by something other than work? Some serious issue in his marriage? As Sarah pointed out, I might be a bit too overprotective. But if it's just a conversation when he comes to visit, that should be okay. Just to listen, after all. I managed to calm my racing heart and waited for John's visit. But my decision was a grave mistake. One I would regret for the rest of my life. It happened so suddenly.
"Is this Mrs. Susan, John's mother?"
The call from the police gripped my heart painfully. A dreadful feeling pierced me, and I nearly fainted. It can't be. Before the officer could even state their business, my mind raced with the worst scenarios. Part of me desperately denied it, yet somewhere there was also a feeling of resignation. I didn't want to hear any more. Fighting the urge to hang up, I nodded. As expected, they informed me of John's death. He had taken his own life.
"Please, stay calm."
They kept saying, but I dropped the phone. I was in such shock, I forgot to even cry, standing dumbfounded. "Why, John?" I repeated his name over and over, as if broken. How much time had passed? The sound of the front door being forcefully knocked brought me back to reality. Concerned about the disconnected call, several police officers had come to check on me. I crawled to the door and opened it. Seeing the officers' sorrowful faces, I finally broke down and cried. A female officer accompanied them, embracing me as she cried along. This is real. John is gone. That's how I lost my beloved son. Overwhelmed with grief, I went through the funeral proceedings, but my memory of it is mostly a blur. I had even forgotten my anger towards Sarah, focusing solely on what needed to be done. There were many things I wanted to say, to talk about, but at that moment, I couldn't do any of it. The police, seeing my condition, decided to postpone their inquiry for a while. During that time, the police seemed to be questioning Sarah, but I doubted she would reveal anything. My intuition told me Sarah was the reason behind John's downfall. Why didn't I contact John right away? Why didn't I go to him immediately? Regrets flooded my heart, and I found myself unable to talk to anybody for a while. Then a letter arrived for me. My hands trembled as I saw the sender's. John's name. The handwriting was unmistakably his. John was supposed to have passed away 13 days ago. In a panic, I rushed back to my room and tore open the envelope. Tears naturally flowed as I clutched John's letter. It must have been written by him before his passing. Without a suicide note, the true cause was shrouded in darkness, and I was afraid to read the contents. However, this letter might reveal what happened to John. The cause that had been eating away at him for years. The letter, opened with trembling hands, was filled with words of gratitude towards me. My body shook uncontrollably, and sobs overcame me. Why couldn't I save John? Why? The same questions circled in my mind. As I tried to return the letter to the envelope, I noticed another piece of paper inside. What's this? I unfolded the letter and couldn't believe the words written on it.
Take revenge on my wife for me.
Below the words was an unfamiliar address. John, are you telling me to go to this place? The tears had stopped, but now cold sweat broke out. I couldn't imagine John ever speaking of revenge. He must have been driven to the edge. What could I find at this address? I had been cooped up at home since the funeral, but now I immediately left, forgetting even to put on makeup. But that didn't matter now. I wanted to honor my dear son's last wish. With that single-minded determination, I hurried to the address in John's letter. It led me to a rental storage facility not far from my home. Among the rows of warehouses, I found the one numbered in the letter. Inserting a thin, small key attached to the letter into the lock, I opened the warehouse door. The small room, about the size of 100 square feet max, was dimly lit and slightly musty, despite it being daytime. As I turned on the switch next to the door, the bare fluorescent light buzzed to life, illuminating the interior. What is this? The room, gradually brightening, revealed a desk covered with scattered photos. Around it, notes littered the floor, along with notebooks and empty plastic bottles. The scene was bizarre, hard to believe those were used by John. He was always organized and tidy, unlike this mess. A sense of fear instinctively gripped me, shaking my entire body. I'm about to see something I shouldn't. Facing the unsettling scene, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. When I finally looked at the photos on the desk, my eyes fixated on them. There was Sarah, not alone but holding hands intimately with an unknown man. Looking at the other photos, each one captured those two together. Undoubtedly, they were proof of cheating. As I had suspected from the letter's words, Sarah was the cause of John's stress. There might have been some stress from work, but unquestionably, it was Sarah's actions that drove John to end his life. While trying to calm my trembling body, I frantically started going through the notes and notebooks. The notebook, in fine handwriting, detailed dates and times, what Sarah said to John, and how she treated him. February 13th at 2:30 p.m. She called me useless. February 23rd at 8:24 p.m. She hit me. The details were horrific, each line a scream from my heart. Why didn't I notice? Why didn't John tell me anything? The more I fought, the more whys filled my head. Alongside John's own writings, there were what seemed to be reports from a private investigator. The photos, too, were likely taken by someone he had hired to investigate Sarah's infidelity. Inside an envelope on the desk, I found several USB drives. I gathered them, along with the other evidence, into my bag and closed the warehouse door. I couldn't stay any longer. The place felt thick with John's resentment, attacking even me, his mother. John, I'm so sorry. Hatred for Sarah, who had transformed my son so drastically, solidified my resolve for revenge. Why did John have to suffer like this? Why didn't he seek help from anyone? I vowed to find the answers and avenge John's unfulfilled grievances. Back home, I went through the awful treatment and evidence of infidelity John had left behind. I panicked several times, feeling sick. The pain was unbearable. Regrets about not being able to do anything kept flooding in, and I couldn't stop the tears. Even if I avenged him, John wouldn't come back. But I couldn't stop now. I forced myself to think about what to do with the evidence. The police would soon come to inquire. Should I hand these over to them? No, that seems too lenient. John had taken his life, tormented by Sarah and her lover's betrayal. What should I do to ensure John rests in peace? Just then, the doorbell rang, signaling a visitor. Was it the police? Looking at the intercom camera, I saw a familiar face.
Hello, it's Johnson.
The young man on the camera was Johnson Smith. Johnson is John's friend since high school. I opened the door, and Johnson's face was the awkward face. I invited Johnson inside and led him to John's room. Johnson took out some sweets from his paper bag and gazed at John's photo. He prayed intently for a while, then turned back to me. His face had changed from earlier. It seemed like he had made some kind of resolution. Johnson adjusted his glasses with his left hand and reached into his pocket, pulling out a letter. Johnson took out a letter and handed it over to me. It was identical to the one I had received from John.
This letter is from John. I was informed that it has reached you as well.
Besides me, John had also sent a letter to Johnson, asking for revenge against Sarah. As a mother, I might still consider it, but involving someone else like Johnson in this matter is unthinkable. Though it pains me to go against John's wish, I had to convey just that. However, Johnson denied this, saying,
Even if we talk about revenge, I have no intention of breaking the law. I'm sure John wouldn't want that either.
Hearing Johnson say this made me realize something. What was I thinking? I had been swept away by the idea of revenge in the shock of losing John. Although I didn't have a clear plan, I feared what I might have done if I were alone. Perhaps John also thought of this, which is why he left a letter for Johnson too.
At the funeral, I handed it to you, but let me do it again.
Johnson continued, taking out a business card case from his pocket. The card he gave me had Johnson's name and his work details.
I couldn't talk to you in detail at that time and just handed you my business card rather abruptly.
Thinking back, I indeed received his business card at the funeral. He used to come over to our house several times since high school and even attended John's wedding party. Why he gave me the business card at this time, I remembered thinking, but I was too shocked to check it then. I hadn't paid attention to Johnson's words at that moment. He had definitely said,
Please contact me if you're in trouble.
The business card read Johnson Law Office. I recalled it. Johnson had pursued a career in law after graduating from high school. He had visited our home even after that, but all I knew was that he was working in New York. I never imagined that Johnson had become a lawyer. Accepting John's letter, Johnson had decided to seek revenge within the bounds of the law. Johnson, having lost a dear friend, had made this resolution and came to visit me.
My office is closed for a while,
He said, smiling for the first time. It was a nostalgic smile. Johnson wanted to help me and John as a friend. He didn't want to accept payment. Along with the letter, a substantial retainer fee arrived from John through registered mail with cash. But Johnson handed it all back to me.
I can't accept this. This is the least I can do, having been unable to help him. Please let me do this job as his friend.
Johnson said that. I hastily stopped him and decided to keep the money for the time being. Not only I but also Johnson had struggled with our inability to save John. So I should consider Johnson's feelings as well. I told Johnson about the contents of John's letter and the items I found in the storage. But let's take a break for now. You must be tired from the long journey. Shall we have some tea first? Johnson might be feeling the same urgency, but we had found a strong ally in each other. That was true for both of us. We needed to calm down first. Feeling this, I decided to welcome Johnson as my son's friend. As Johnson looked through the documents I handed him, he let out a deep sigh.
This is tough.
He said, a statement that could be interpreted as either a remark to me or a spontaneous utterance. The man Sarah was having an affair with was named Brian Taylor. According to the notes left by John, it seems that Brian, too, knew John. Brian had been threatening John repeatedly to break up with Sarah and had continued to harass him. Johnson, being knowledgeable in law, stated that Brian was as guilty as Sarah. Even if they denied the affair, there were photos and evidence left by John. This should be enough to build a strong case.
As a lawyer, I can't do much in court, but I do have the knowledge.
Holding the two people responsible for pushing John to the brink would mean the end of Johnson's role as a lawyer in this matter. That's because he has no intention of defending those two. Then the next step would be to organize the evidence John left behind and submit it to the police. Also, demanding a significant amount in damages from them would be part of the plan.
We will submit what John left to the police and bring those two to justice,
Johnson affirmed, as if convincing himself. He needed to say this to maintain his composure. I explained to Johnson that the police were scheduled to question me soon. With all this evidence, Sarah and Brian would face some punishment, no matter what they say. However, I desperately wanted to talk to Sarah directly. As John's mother, I felt it was my duty to confront her. I told Johnson that I wanted to talk to Sarah without revealing the existence of the evidence. Johnson readily agreed, saying, "Of course." Once Johnson submits the evidence to the police, there might be no more chance to talk to Sarah. The police could come to me at any time. The time left must be short. I decided to go to Sarah's house immediately. Sarah showed a look of confusion when I suddenly visited her without any prior communication. She must have thought I was still recovering from the shock of the funeral. She had shown her true nature over the phone before, which must have made her feel guilty. She must have been internally panicking about what I would say. "I've heard everything from John. He is never coming back. But apologize right now. Apologize to John." Seeing Sarah leading a normal life even now, my patience reached its limit. I realized I was speaking before I knew it.
What are you talking about? Why should I apologize to John? What did I do?
Sarah's face froze for a moment in shock, and then she became hysterical. Her reaction told me she had been restless these past weeks. She has been constantly worried about when her committed sins would be exposed. She reacted sensitively to my words because she couldn't deceive me. She might be able to deceive the police during questioning since they don't know the truth, but she can't fool me. I've heard everything from John. Your affair with a man named Brian, all the terrible things you've done to John. It's all your fault. You took John away from me. I carefully chose my words and confronted Sarah. As expected, she became more agitated.
I don't know. I haven't done anything.
Sarah covered her ears with her hands and shook her head. Her mental state had already been shattered. My visit completely broke her. She collapsed on the spot, crying and repeating,
I'm sorry.
Why didn't I realize this sooner? If she was this weak, she might have changed her attitude towards John if I had been stronger. Thinking about how such the person had tormented John made me feel empty. I called Johnson right there and told him everything that had happened. Johnson chose to explain everything to the police right there. He seemed taken aback by how quickly everything was resolved, a bit bewildered. He had expected Sarah to resist more and never admit her guilt. However, the outcome was unexpectedly straightforward. It later became clear that Sarah had never considered that John would take his own life. She thought her harassment would lead John to initiate a divorce. Without evidence of the affair, she believed there was no need to pay alimony. And she intended to deny the affair altogether, claiming Brian was just a friend. It was a crazy plan, but both she and Brian believed it would work. John, out of love for Sarah, had not sued based on the evidence he had gathered. John was hoping for remorse and a severing of ties with Brian. He had been gathering evidence. But it seems that the realization dawned that this wish would not be fulfilled. He could have taken revenge himself, but John was so cornered that he couldn't make sound judgments. He couldn't bring himself to sue Sarah. Unaware of John's kindness, Sarah continued to push him to the edge. Following Johnson's call, the police arrived promptly, and Sarah, along with Taylor, was subject to another round of questioning. The evidence left by John soon exposed their crimes. Sarah, since then, hasn't been able to speak properly. Even after being found guilty and sent to a police hospital, she remains in a state of shock. This story became news, quickly spreading the crimes of Brian and Sarah across the nation. They were recognized as the cause of John's death. Johnson's efforts ensured a flawless claim for damages. Unsurprisingly, Brian lost his job. His crimes became known among his company and friends, leaving him completely isolated. Even if he re-enters society, he will have to continue paying the alimony and remain a subject of rumors for his grave misdeeds. They committed such grave crimes. Sarah remains unwell, with no hope of recovery, constantly repeating, "I'm sorry," and unable to sleep without medication. The guilt of the two was revealed, and they faced justice according to the law. However, John will not return. Did we fulfill his last wish? After ensuring the conviction of the two individuals, Johnson decided to return to New York.
Thank you for everything. I don't know if we completely honored John's feelings, but we tried our best,
he said with a somber expression. Having a friend like you, John, was fortunate. Thank you so much, I replied with deep gratitude. Johnson, slightly flustered, responded,
I just did what I could as his friend. Please, no need for such formalities.
With a smile, Johnson walked away. Without him, I might have lost my composure, driven by anger. He managed to stay calm and bring them to justice, hiding his own turmoil. Although Johnson wasn't looking at me anymore, I continued to watch his retreating figure for a while. Later, Johnson started a volunteer organization to help people with various legal troubles, providing relief without financial concerns. His inability to save John must have been incredibly frustrating. To this day, he continues this work alongside his job, helping many people. Just a few weeks ago, he came by to see me again. During that visit, he introduced me to his wife and their newborn child. Despite his busy schedule, he makes sure to visit a few times a year. John must be delighted. As for myself, I quit a part-time job I had since then. I felt compelled to do something only I could do, despite not having the knowledge or power like Johnson. That's when I decided to volunteer in mental health care for families who have lost loved ones. I joined an organization founded by a psychiatrist living nearby and began facing various people and their struggles. Johnson's support saved me, helping me recover from the loss of John. Just like I was sinking in despair, I wanted to help others who felt the same way. This motivated me to start my volunteer work. As I continued, I realized this was where I belonged. It wasn't just about saving families engulfed in grief, but possibly preventing others from ending up like my son. Driven by this conviction, I grew closer to the psychiatrist who established the organization. I never planned for this. It made me feel guilty towards my late husband and John. Is it okay for me to be happy only myself? With this newfound acceptance, I cautiously began a new relationship. Even if I fall in love again in the future, I will never forget my husband or John. I intend to live my life carrying the memories and sentiments of both of them with me. So, is it all right for me to embrace happiness again?
Grandma, I'm hungry. What's for lunch?
It was just before noon when my daughter, Emily, returned home with her son, Noah, for the birth of her second child. Noah, waving his hands excitedly, looked so adorable, and I answered with a warm smile. We're having Emily's favorite, omelet rice for lunch. Do you like it too, Noah?
Yeah, I love omelet rice.
Noah spun around, with his arms raised in a cheer. Just then, a loud crash came from the direction of the cupboard. Emily. When I rushed towards the sound, I found Emily leaning tiredly against a table, seemingly exhausted. Are you okay? As I stepped closer to support Emily, I saw something incredible happen in front of me. A small shadow moved quickly towards Emily and kicked her in the stomach with great force. What?
Cough, cough.
Emily doubled over in pain, and the small shadow stood defiantly in front of her. Noah. Shockingly, the small shadow that had kicked Emily was Noah. I couldn't believe my eyes for a moment, and when I got back to myself, I told Noah off. Hey, Noah, what are you doing to your mom? Emily, are you okay? I immediately went to Emily's side and whispered to her.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
For some reason, Emily kept apologizing desperately. Seeing the usually sweet and honest Noah kick his mother in the stomach was a massive shock to me. My husband, Jack, approached with a fierce look, having witnessed the whole scene.
Noah, I'm not mad, but explain why you did that.
Noah looked confused and said, What? It's discipline. Discipline. What does that mean? I am Kate Jones, supporting my husband, Jack, for 35 years, and this year, I finally reached my 60th birthday. We have one child, our 31-year-old daughter, Emily. I've dedicated my life to homemaking, focusing on household chores, and raising our child. Even though Jack worked, he always made time for Emily on weekends and before bedtime. Emily was the daughter we always wished for, and we showered her with all the love we could from the moment she was in the womb. Especially Jack, who had always wanted a daughter since we got married, lavished her with love. He gave her everything she wanted, from clothes and toys to snacks. And I later found out he had secretly taken her to arcades and shopping malls. Emily grew up honest and straightforward, without a rebellious phase, blooming like a sunflower with a bright and cheerful smile. She married at 28 and lived with her husband, Sam, helping to manage the family-owned restaurant in Sam's hometown. I had only met Sam's parents during the engagement and wedding, so our interactions were minimal. Sam struck me as serious but stubborn, yet the easygoing Emily seemed to soften his edges. We considered Emily our little girl, so we hoped to welcome Sam into our family rather than send her away. However, Emily spent days convincing us, pleading daily about Sam, until we finally agreed to let her marry and move out. After the wedding, Emily called us daily for a while.
Dad, today I made a delicious beef and potato stew.
I knew it, Emily. Emily's beef and potato stew is fantastic. The texture is just irresistible. Sam, he's a lucky man to be able to eat Emily's delicious homemade meals every day.
But those carefree exchanges didn't last long, as the calls became less frequent, from every other day to once a week, then to once a month. At first, Emily seemed overjoyed, but as the number of phone calls decreased, she began to waver, saying that the restaurant is busy. Even when Jack tried every trick to keep the conversation going, he ended up getting cut off. When I messaged Emily, it was rare to get an immediate reply, and sometimes I didn't get a response at all, which was worrying. The birth of our grandson, Noah, was also announced via message. However, it wasn't until Noah turned 1 that Jack and I begged her over and over again and got to see our long-awaited grandson. And after that they only visited our house once or twice a year. Even though we asked Emily to come back more often, her reluctance was puzzling, and before we knew it, Noah was old enough to start elementary school. Thus, we hardly heard about Emily and her family's situation, and had no clue about their lives. Jack tried calling several times but lamented that he could never get through. One evening, just as we finished dinner, the phone rang. "Hello."
Hi, Mom. Is now a good time?
"Yes, it's fine." It was Emily's first call in 6 months. Seeing my surprise, Jack glanced over, so I switched to speakerphone so he could hear too.
I'm about to give birth soon and was wondering if I could come home. Would that be a bother?
"What? Emily, when did you get pregnant?" Jack stood up abruptly, shocked by my question.
Really, Emily?
Oh, didn't I mention? The due date is the 23rd.
We hadn't heard it.
Really? Sorry. But yeah, I got pregnant. I've already chosen a hospital for a maternity visit back home and have gone for a few checkups. Sorry, it ended up being after the fact.
Although it should have been happy news, Emily's voice sounded gloomy and hesitant.
So, is it okay? I know Dad and you are busy, and I'm sorry to bother you.
Emily seemed more concerned about imposing on us by coming back than her impending childbirth.
A bother. You're always welcome here.
Before I could respond, Jack eagerly assured her. "That's right. We're always waiting for you and Noah to visit."
Thank you. Then I'll be in your care?
Emily spoke softly and then hung up.
Emily.
The call ended so abruptly that Jack kept calling her name into the phone, but all we got was the dial tone.
Is Emily okay?
Jack gripped the phone tightly, whispering as if talking to Emily. Emily sounded off, didn't she?
Yeah, I've never heard her sound so down.
Our joy at hearing our daughter's voice was overshadowed by concern for her unusually downcast demeanor. The following week, Emily came home with Noah. We went to the station early in the morning, eagerly awaiting their arrival. Emily appeared from the ticket gate, pulling Noah's hand.
Emily, Noah.
Jack rushed towards them and waved his hands enthusiastically.
Mommy, who's that man?
Noah noticed Jack, but he didn't remember because he hadn't seen Jack for over 3 years.
He's my dad and your grandpa.
Emily waved at us with an apologetic look on her face. As they came through the gate, Jack greeted them with a forced smile, hiding his disappointment at not being recognized by Noah.
Emily, Noah, have you been well?
Dad.
Emily seemed to grasp the situation from Jack's expression, tensing up as she whispered something to Noah. After hearing Emily's words, Noah said with a sharp look of mission,
Grandpa and Grandma, I'll be in your care for a while.
Of course, you're our family, so feel free to lean on us all you want.
It was clear Emily had instructed Noah to say this, so Jack answered in a reassuring tone. It saddened me to think that Emily had become so considerate of us, her parents, without us knowing. Noah, like Emily when she was little, seems to have a spoiled personality, begging Emily to praise him. Emily gently stroked Noah's head while she rubbed her stomach and sighed. Anyway, you must be exhausted. It's a long journey.
No, I'm okay.
Yet, Emily's complexion was pale, and she looked even thinner than the last time we saw her. Emily, have you lost weight? Are you eating properly?
Yes.
Emily averted her eyes and began to rub her arms as if to protect herself. With Emily avoiding eye contact and looking downcast, I grew suspicious. Noticing our daughter's odd behavior, Jack suddenly became serious and said,
You've come back home after so long. Now's the time to really lean on us.
Yeah, thank you, Dad.
But Emily's response was hesitant, causing Jack and me to exchange puzzled glances. When we got home and I was about to make some herbal tea to take a break, Emily came into the kitchen and said, I'll help you. Emily, you should rest.
I can help you. I am okay.
Emily forcefully grabbed a kitchen towel and began wiping the dining table, sweat forming on her forehead. You were a very spoiled girl. What happened all of a sudden? She had never once talked back to me, but now she seemed like a different person, turning her back to me.
It's nothing. I've just come to understand the challenges of being a mom.
While meticulously wiping the table, Emily spoke calmly, but she looked so frail I had to force her to lie down in bed.
Mom, I am okay.
Emily was lying down and saying in a weak voice, and I was worried about her. We're taking care of Noah, so sleep for a while.
I am sorry.
Emily used to be so bright, like a sunflower, but now she was trembling and seemed so small and scared. It's not I'm sorry. It's thank you, right?
Yay, thank you, Mom.
I continued to gently and slowly rub Emily's shoulder. She must have been so tired that she fell asleep in less than 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Noah, overflowing with energy, played with toy trains with Jack. I smiled and spoke to the two who were playing. "Put it away when you're done playing."
Okay.
Noah responded energetically, raising his hand.
It's very good of you to answer well, Noah.
Noah is such an honest and good boy as Emily. I smiled, left Noah in Jack's care, and decided to go grocery shopping to prepare lunch. Today, I plan to make Emily's favorite omelet rice, trying to shake off the nagging anxiety. When I returned from shopping and it was time for lunch, Emily had just woken up.
Did I sleep a lot?
Yeah, you slept soundly.
What should I do?
For some reason, her face turned even paler, showing a frightened expression. Is something wrong?
No, I need to start making lunch soon.
Without hearing me stop her, Emily went hauntingly to the cupboard. Her behavior was more suspicious than I had ever seen, filling me with an increasing sense of dread. Just then, Jack and Noah, tired of playing and hungry, came.
Grandma, I'm hungry. What's for lunch?
Noah's flailing hands were endearing, and I answered with a smile. We're having Emily's favorite, omelet rice for lunch. Do you like it too, Noah?
Yeah. I love omelet rice.
Noah spun around with his arms raised in a cheer. At that moment, a loud crash came from the cupboard. Emily. Rushing over, it seemed Emily hadn't fully recovered, as she was slumped over, leaning on the table. Are you okay? As I stepped closer to support Emily, I saw something incredible happen in front of me. A small shadow moved incredibly fast towards Emily and kicked her in the stomach with great force. What?
Cough, cough.
Emily crumpled to the ground, with a small shadow standing defiantly in front of her. Noah. Shockingly, the small shadow that had kicked Emily was Noah. I couldn't believe my eyes for a moment, and when I got back to myself, I told Noah off. Hey, Noah, what are you doing to your mom? Emily, are you okay? I immediately went to Emily's side and whispered to her.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
For some reason, Emily kept apologizing desperately. Seeing the usually sweet and honest Noah kick his mother in the stomach was a massive shock to me. Jack, having witnessed the whole scene, approached with a fierce look.
Noah, I'm not mad, but explain why you did that.
Jack was trying to remain as calm as possible, but it was clear he was struggling to contain his anger, his fists clenched. However, Noah looked bewildered.
What? It's discipline?
Discipline. I didn't understand what he meant, but my first thought was, first, we need to help Emily. Emily. Supporting Emily, whose gaze was unfocused, I looked into her eyes. Emily, what's wrong? You're acting strange. At my words, Emily flinched and then collapsed to the floor. Emily, are you okay? Emily continued to breathe heavily while clutching her stomach. Emily. Gently touching Emily's back, my warmth seemed to reassure her, and her breathing slowly became more stable. Then the warmth of my hand seemed to make Emily's breathing calm little by little. I gently stroked Emily's back and watched Jack and his grandson. Noah was a good and obedient child, and I felt there must be some reason behind his actions.
What's going on, Noah?
With his face turning red and looking nothing like the person who had just been playing with Noah, Jack's angry expression made Noah look like he was about to cry.
But Daddy said.
At Noah's softly spoken words, Jack's eyebrows twitched. In front of Jack, who looked like a demon, Noah finally sobbed and continued his words.
Daddy said, this is how to discipline Mommy.
What do you mean?
When Daddy's not around and Mommy makes a mistake, he told me to discipline her.
Noah managed to say between hiccups.
If I don't, Mommy gets in more trouble.
That's unbelievable.
Then Emily, coughing, managed to squeeze out her words.
It's not Noah's fault. If we don't do this, Noah gets hit by Sam.
With those words, the awful truth I had suspected became clear. You've endured so much. Imagining Emily enduring Sam's treatment alone, without anyone to turn to, brought tears to my eyes.
I've been watched by Sam all this time. I couldn't say anything until now.
Emily also started crying heavily. Emily, as well as Noah, and the baby will not be happy with Sam.
Your mom's right. We can't forgive what he's done to our precious daughter.
Emily's tears didn't stop, and Jack's words seemed to finally allow her to voice her true feelings.
Dad, Mom, I want to cut ties with Sam.
That's brave of you to say.
Actually, I've been carrying a divorce petition that I signed, thinking of divorcing someday.
When Emily revealed she had brought it even now, Jack immediately said,
Let's call Sam over right now.
But will he come?
Sam always prioritized the restaurant and never listened to Emily, so she looked doubtful. Jack called Sam with a firm tone.
Sam, come to our house right now.
I couldn't hear Sam's voice on the phone, but Jack's voice made Sam look reluctant.
Do you understand what will happen if you don't?
Jack's forehead veins stood out, and his face turned red from the unfamiliar effort.
We'll talk more when you get here.
After ending the call, Jack looked frustrated. Are you okay?
Yeah. I just need some water and a little rest.
I passed the water to him, and he drank it all in one gulp, holding his head. After drinking the water, Jack felt exhausted and staggered down on the sofa. Noah sat quietly next to Emily, who still couldn't stand up. I clenched my teeth, bracing for what might happen next. Hours later, Sam arrived, his hair messy and dressed carelessly, with a sulky attitude.
Seriously, I have work, and you call me over suddenly.
Jack, slightly recovered, spoke up at Sam's attitude, which suggested he might attack Emily if we weren't watching.
How could you do this to our precious daughter?
Sam, sensing something, responded noncommittally and glared at Noah. Noah stood protectively in front of Emily, spreading his small body as wide as he could.
I disciplined Mommy in place of Daddy, so don't be mad at her anymore.
As Sam slowly moved towards Emily and Noah, Jack stood in front of them.
If you take one more step, I won't hold back.
Jack's voice, deep and resonant from his core, made Sam shake his head in frustration.
All of you painting me as the villain, disciplining a poor wife, what's wrong with that?
Sam, showing no remorse, glared at Jack with muddy eyes.
That's why I hated spoiled princesses. Do you have any idea how much I've hurt my hands educating this worthless wife?
While revealing his abuse of Emily without a shred of guilt, Sam remained utterly unapologetic. Standing next to Jack, I couldn't contain my anger any longer and said, "Emily is pregnant. What if something happened to the baby? Even if she weren't, abusing your wife is despicable."
Despicable, huh? It's Emily who's really despicable here, being so careless with housework and parenting.
Sam started, scratching his head and saying something outrageous.
Lately, I've been letting Noah do the disciplining. Just like his mother, he's completely inept.
He casually mentioned abusing Noah if he didn't discipline properly, then taking it out even more violently on Emily, as if discussing tomorrow's weather.
That's absolutely unforgivable.
Jack screamed, realizing the unimaginable hardships our dear daughter had been silently bearing.
Am I really that bad? I was raised this way, and making a fuss about this seems ridiculous.
Sam revealed, apparently, his parents were complicit in his treatment of Emily.
Give me a break. It's ridiculous that I'm being blamed here.
Sam bit back, showing no signs of remorse and acting as if he was the victim.
You thought I was listening silently.
Finally, Jack's patience snapped. He disappeared into another room and returned with several documents.
I don't care what happens in your family, but you're getting divorced from Emily.
I thrust a sheet of paper at Sam. Sam looked at the document, raising his eyebrows slightly. The document Jack pushed towards him was the divorce petition signed by Emily. Before Sam arrived, Jack had taken custody of the divorce papers from Emily.
Fine, I don't mind divorcing Emily.
Sam quickly signed the divorce papers and handed them back to Jack. Jack secured the signed divorce petition and prepared more documents.
Additionally, considering Emily will need support, I want back all the money I invested in your parents' restaurant.
With that, he handed over another document, causing Sam to gasp and collapse to the ground. The second document was a financial support agreement signed by Jack. The document stated the total amount of money that Jack had helped so far, and that he might have to make a lump sum repayment depending on his wishes. Since Jack is the executive of a large company, he has given considerable support to Sam's parents' restaurant, which amounts to $100,000. Sam finally spoke after a moment of slumping on his back.
I can't give up Noah as the heir, and there's no way I can repay that money.
There's no way we'd let you off that easy.
Do you have no compassion? I'm the man your precious daughter loved.
I supported Jack because Sam was so selfish. After agreeing so readily to divorce Emily, you expect compassion and love.
What? You don't care what happens to me, Emily?
Sam desperately looked to Emily for support, turning his anger towards her. But protected by us, Emily confidently replied,
I don't care what happens to you. As long as I have Noah and the baby, I'll be happy.
So that's how it is.
Realizing there was nothing he could do, Sam seemed to lose all spirit, now that the divorce was finalized. Following the divorce, Sam's parents' restaurant, having lost Jack's financial support, faced severe financial difficulties. To save the failing business, Sam accumulated debt, but the business ultimately failed spectacularly. Rumors of Sam's abuse towards Emily and Noah spread, and he was eventually ousted from his home. Sam, now labeled as an abusive man, moved far from his hometown and worked tirelessly in a remote factory to repay his debts. Then Emily and Noah, no longer with Sam, lived with us. On a bright, clear autumn day, the cheerful cries of a newborn filled the hospital room.
How is it, Emily?
As usual, Jack charged towards Emily, causing me to hastily calm him down. Dear, you'll startle the newborn baby with that enthusiasm.
Oh, my apologies.
As if slamming on the brakes, Jack came to a sudden stop in front of Emily and flashed a smile as soft as melted ice cream.
You look just like Emily, a beautiful girl.
Hee, thank you.
Emily smiled softly, as if the evil had fallen. That smile was indeed the full bloom of sunflowers we knew Emily could bring to life.
Mommy, Mommy.
Noah, who had been fidgety yet patiently waiting, approached Emily with joy.
Noah, you're going to be a big brother starting today. Say hello, will you?
The baby stopped crying and stared intently at Noah's big, round eyes.
I'm your big brother.
As if responding, the baby tightly grasped Noah's cautiously extended hand and seemed to smile. Oh, how adorable. Noah, gripping the baby's hand in return, immediately put on a determined, big brotherly expression.
Have you decided on a name for her?
Jack asked Emily with a doting smile.
Yes. I want her to have a life filled with brightness and joy, so I thought we'd name her Claire.
Emily's words resonated deeply within me. Claire, thank you for being born safely. My spontaneous words made both Jack and Emily nod quietly with moist eyes. Emily and her family were discharged from the hospital safely, and our home became livelier in an instant. Fortunately, Emily has no physical scars left, and the newborn Claire is just as shiny and bright as her name.
Mom.
After more than half a year, with absolutely no contact, I received a call from my daughter, Ashley. It was already past 8 p.m. Normally, it wouldn't be a big deal, but for Ashley, who has a family of her own, to call at such an hour was extremely rare. I instinctively felt that something serious must have happened. Ashley, what's wrong, calling at this hour? What happened? At first, Ashley didn't respond. All I could hear was a whistling sound like air leaking through the phone.
Mom.
In a faint voice, as if squeezing it out, Ashley finally spoke. Ashley, what's wrong? Are you really okay?
Mom, help me.
Sensing something was terribly wrong, I hit the speaker button on the phone. Immediately, my husband, John, rushed over to me, straining to listen. "Ashley, hold on. What exactly happened?"
It hurts. I haven't eaten anything. I might not make it.
"Haven't eaten anything? What do you mean?"
I haven't been given anything to eat. By my in-laws. Nothing at all.
I pictured Ashley crawling on the floor, desperately reaching out to me for help.
We have to do something fast, or Ashley's in danger.
John shouted and grabbed the car keys and headed for the front door. "I'm coming to get you right now," I yelled into the phone, hurrying after my husband. My name is Susan Smith, 70 years old. Currently, John and I run a fine dining restaurant together. John, having trained in a renowned restaurant when he was younger, is well known for his skill. John and I met through a family introduction, and upon marrying, he opened his own restaurant. John's not just skilled, but he's also got a way with words and a down-to-earth personality that's won him a lot of regulars. I've been helping out at the restaurant for nearly 30 years now, but lately I've started to feel a bit of wear and tear on my body. Maybe it's my age, but just a little bit of movement causes me pain in my back. John, my husband, has suggested hiring some part-time help, but while I appreciate his concern, I worry about the payroll and prefer to keep working as long as I can. Sometimes, John jokingly grumbles, "It would have been nice if she was here to help us out," referring to our daughter, Ashley. Since she's already established her own family, it's not like we can ask her to come back and help at the restaurant now. Ashley is currently living about an hour's drive from our home, in the next town over, with her husband, Mike, and their son, Kevin, as well as Mike's mother, Linda, and recently, Mike's sister, Sarah, has also moved in with them. I don't know the details, but I heard Sarah came back home after getting divorced. I had hoped that Ashley would help out at our restaurant after graduating from college, but she wanted to see more of the world and left home. She ended up getting a job at a major department store, working in the women's clothing section. Fresh out of college, Ashley, with her charm and natural brightness, quickly won over the customers. It was there she met her future husband, Mike. Mike worked in the sales department, focusing on high-end clients, a star in one of the most prestigious parts of the store. When Ashley first introduced Mike to me, I couldn't help but feel a bit of unease. "Are you sure it's okay to marry such a perfect man?" In fact, Mike had a handsome face and a knack for charming conversation that captivated many customers, with some even visiting the store specifically to see him. Yet, Ashley would dismiss my concerns with a carefree smile, saying, "It's okay, Mom, don't worry, I trust him." Following that, Ashley married Mike and, taking that as an opportunity, quit her job at the department store to dedicate herself to supporting her husband as a stay-at-home wife. The next year, their son Kevin was born, which brought me the joy of having a grandchild and relieved my worries. Despite everything, it seems like those two are doing just fine, huh? For a while, the Young family of 3 was living in an apartment, but 5 years ago, following the death of Mike's father, They moved to live with Mike's elderly mother, thinking she'd be lonely on her own. Ashley would call home from time to time, but lately, she lamented that Mike was often not around.
Mike stayed out late for work again yesterday and ended up staying at a colleague's apartment. It's been happening a lot recently. Even on weekends, he's away on business.
Still, Ashley laughed it off over the phone, saying, maybe it's just part of being an adult in society. One day, I decided to call Ashley after a long time. Kevin's birthday is coming up, right? Do you have any plans on the day?
We don't have anything particular planned for the day. Why?
Perfect. Our restaurant is closed that day. So how about you, me, and Kevin go out somewhere? To an amusement park or an aquarium, anywhere that would make him happy.
That might be nice. Mike has been really busy with work lately and hardly ever comes home. So Kevin hasn't been able to go out much and is bored.
Ashley sounded excited over the phone, but as Kevin's birthday approached, Ashley called me to apologize.
I'm sorry, Mom. I hate to say this, but something came up after we spoke. I can't go out with you and Kevin after all. I'm really sorry.
Something came up. What happened?
A birthday party organized by the kids' club was scheduled, so we can't make it that day.
A kids' club? Huh. I guess you can't just cancel on them. I was a bit disappointed, but quickly shifted gears. Well, it doesn't have to be on Kevin's birthday. Just let me know whenever you're free.
I'm sorry, Mom. It doesn't look like we'll be able to go anywhere for a while. Next week there's a nature class with the kids club. And the week after that, swimming lessons start. It's all pretty packed.
Kids these days sure are busy. It's a shame, but it looks like we'll just have to give up. I had been looking forward to seeing my grandson, so my disappointment was significant. I asked some regular customers who are currently raising children about the latest game consoles that kids enjoy, and I sent one to Kevin.
Mom, the present arrived. Thank you.
I received a thank you call from Ashley. However, I felt a bit of discomfort in the voice of my daughter, which I should be familiar with. Perhaps it's a mother's intuition, but Ashley, who is usually cheerful and energetic, seemed somewhat gloomy and subdued that day. What's wrong? You seem a bit tired today, huh?
No, not at all. I'm as energetic as ever.
Is that so? Well, if you say so.
Anyway, thanks for the gaming console.
About that, I'm not really up to date with what elementary school kids are into these days, so I just went with something someone recommended. I wonder if Kevin was pleased with it.
Well, of course. He was really happy with it, saying Grandma really knows my stuff.
For some reason, Ashley seemed to be in a hurry to end a call, as if she wanted to avoid dragging out the conversation with me. Are you guys doing all right?
What's with that all of a sudden? We're managing just fine, so don't worry about us, Mom.
You mentioned once that Mike's been coming home late recently. Has anything changed since then?
You worry too much. I told you not to bother about it. I've already forgotten about that. And you know, phone calls aren't free, so I'm going to hang up now. You must be busy with the restaurant, right?
Just wait a minute. Right now, it's not about me, it's about you. I started to say, but Ashley hung up on me before I could finish. I only asked about her recent situation. Yet why does Ashley try so hard to push me away? It's as if she doesn't want me to probe into her family's affairs, evasively dodging my questions. and cutting off the conversation unilaterally. I can't shake the feeling that something's not right. I felt a sense of foreboding. After the restaurant closes, it has become a routine for me and John to have a quiet drink in the living room. That night, as usual, we were relaxing and sharing the weariness of the day. It's about Ashley. Something seems off with her. She seems tired, or maybe not her usual self. I can't quite put my finger on it.
You call her from time to time, don't you?
I just called her this afternoon, but she cut me off one-sidedly.
Is she pushing you away?
More than pushing away, I think she doesn't want to worry me. This might just be a mother's intuition, and it might not be reliable, but I feel like Ashley is hiding something from me. John crossed his arms and fell silent for a while before murmuring, "Could it possibly be related to that thing?" "That thing? What are you talking about?" After some hesitation, John decided to speak up.
I heard something concerning from one of our regulars about Mike.
What's wrong with Mike?
This regular mentioned that while they were out in the city, they saw Mike leaving a bar with a woman who wasn't Ashley.
You don't think Mike would do something like that, do you?
The woman was not young, but apparently quite attractive, and she was dressed in flashy, expensive-looking designer clothes.
It must be a case of mistaken identity. I said something in defense of Mike. No, it's more accurate to say I didn't want to stir trouble between Mike and Ashley out of parental concern, rather than defending Mike per se.
Of course, the regular wasn't sure it was Mike, just someone who looked somewhat like him.
I didn't want to take that regular's eyewitness account at face value. Yet, I've heard that Mike has been coming home late recently and going out more on weekends. Maybe, unbeknownst to us, Mike is seeing another woman apart from Ashley. With no concrete information, my mind can't help but wander to the worst possible scenarios. I'm worried about Ashley. She never complains or shows weakness. If she knows about this and is struggling.
Don't think too negatively. I'll see what I can do. For starters, one of our regulars is a lawyer. I'm thinking of consulting him.
Since then, I've been so worried about Ashley every day that I even ended up breaking dishes I was washing.
What's wrong? You seem tired yourself, don't you?
I stopped working and tried calling Ashley numerous times, but she hardly ever responded. Occasionally, she'd remember to tell me I'm doing fine, with a brief update, but it was surprisingly nonchalant. Whenever I tried to delve deeper into family matters, she'd laugh it off and hang up quickly. Each time I heard Ashley's voice over the phone, it sounded more and more lifeless, as if it could disappear at any moment. I remembered Ashley's charming smile that everyone loved before she was married, and as my anxiety grew day by day, I found myself in tears. Then, about half a year later, I suddenly received a call from Ashley, with whom I had lost all contact. It was after 8 p.m. Normally, it wouldn't be a big deal, but for Ashley, who has a family of her own, to call at such an hour was extremely rare. I instinctively felt that something serious must have happened. Ashley, what's wrong, calling at this hour? What happened? She didn't respond. All I could hear was a whistling sound like air leaking through the phone. Still, I was certain it was Ashley holding the phone. Is there nobody around you? Are you alone there? Since I couldn't hear any background chatter, that's what I thought.
Mom.
In a faint voice, as if squeezing it out, Ashley finally spoke. Ashley, what's wrong? Are you really okay? Mom, help me. Sensing something was terribly wrong, I hit the speaker button on the phone. Immediately, John rushed over to me, straining to listen. Ashley, hold on. What exactly happened?
It hurts. I haven't eaten anything. I might not make it.
Haven't eaten anything. What do you mean?
I haven't been allowed to eat by my in-laws. Nothing at all.
I pictured Ashley crawling on the floor, desperately reaching out to me for help.
We have to do something fast, or Ashley's in danger.
John shouted and grabbed the car keys and headed for the front door. I'm coming to get you right now. I yelled into the phone, hurrying after my husband. Throughout the drive, we were both silent. John kept his grip on the steering wheel, his brows furrowed and veins standing out on his forehead. It was probably a mix of inexplicable anxiety and anger at the thought that our precious daughter might be undergoing some unjust treatment. Looking in the mirror, I was sure my expression mirrored John's. Fighting the urge to cry, I closed my eyes, and images of Ashley's youthful, innocent smile floated before me. An innocent girl, unaware of the world's evils, reaching out to us with her tiny hands, trying to share her happiness, filled me with frustration. Ashley was asking for help. Thinking this made me feel all the more pathetic for not having noticed her suffering sooner. From the sound of her voice on the phone, it was clear Ashley was very weak, even without seeing her with my own eyes. I couldn't believe that Ashley, who used to radiate vitality, with a smile as bright as a picture of health, was now pleading for help in such a voice. Looking out the passenger window at the dark streetscape, I murmured, "This must be a dream. I must be having a nightmare." As we passed through a quiet residential area, the light leaking from each home seemed to carry the laughter of families, making me feel that this was how it was supposed to be for Ashley and us, and sadness washed over me again. Even though it was a distance that would take an hour during the day, since the rush hour was over, the roads were relatively clear, and we arrived at the Thompsons, where Ashley lived with Mike and her in-laws, in no time.
Are you okay? I can go in alone if you want.
John offered his kind words, concerned for me, but this was a matter for our family. No matter what reality awaited us, I was determined we will definitely save Ashley with our own hands. When we rang the doorbell, after a moment, a carefree voice could be heard from inside.
Hello? Who is it at this hour?
Contrastingly peaceful and laid back to the urgent call made by Ashley, Mike's voice left us puzzled. "It's Susan, Ashley's mother." After I introduced myself, Mike went silent, perhaps cautious, then slowly said, "Is something wrong?" before cracking the door open to peek out at us standing outside.
Sorry to bother you late at night, Mike. We have urgent matters.
John wedged his foot into the slightly open door and forcefully pushed it open.
Hey, what are you doing, John?
We're coming in.
With a forceful attitude that brooked no argument, we pushed our way into the house. when we stood in front of a narrow room at the end of the hallway with no lights on. Is Ashley here? Why we thought Ashley was in this room, I couldn't explain later, but we had no doubt her daughter was here, calling out for our help from this very spot.
It's beyond rude. Even if you are Ashley's parents, I'll call the cops.
Well, that works out. Might as well have a police witness this, huh?
John didn't flinch as he forcefully slid the room's door open. There, Ashley was crouched on the floor, like a worn-out, discarded rag. It took our brains a few seconds to recognize that this was our daughter, so emaciated and changed was her form. Ashley, oh, what in the world has happened to you? We let out a voiceless cry as we rushed to Ashley, lifting her weakened body.
Mom, help me. It hurts. I can't take it anymore.
Barely breathing, Ashley managed to respond. It was immediately clear that Ashley was delirious and suffering from severe dehydration.
What are you people doing here? Get out, right now.
Mike tried to shoo us away as if we were intruders, but his voice lacked any conviction. His gaze wandered as if scared of something, his body trembling uncontrollably. Mike, just bring some water for now.
But I can't possibly.
Quit your whining and just bring it. My furious shout pressured Mike into running to the kitchen, and he quickly returned with a bottle of water from the fridge. I snatched it away, opened a cap, and said, "Here you go, Ashley, drink some water." Hearing the commotion, Linda and Sarah also came.
What's all this ruckus about?
It's so loud I can't hear the TV.
I think we're the ones who'd like an explanation.
John glared at Mike, demanding answers, and Mike immediately prostrated himself in apology.
I'm so sorry.
And then Mike began to explain how Ashley ended up in this state, a story beyond our wildest imaginations. It seems things were going well initially when Ashley and her husband started living with her mill, Linda. However, at some point, Mike started coming home late, and as if in response, Linda's attitude towards Ashley turned cold suddenly. One day, worried about Mike's late returns, Ashley talked to Linda, who, instead of addressing her concerns, blamed Ashley for Mike's absence. Ashley had no idea why she was being blamed, but Linda told her it was because she couldn't get back to her pre-pregnancy figure after giving birth to Kevin, which was completely unreasonable. From then on, Linda began to dump all the household chores on Ashley every time she refused, and even imposed dietary restrictions on her. Despite this, Ashley tried to stay cheerful and brushed off every unreasonable demand, but it seemed Linda didn't find this amusing. The harassment escalated, and under the pretense of preventing secret snacking, Linda took control of all of Ashley's finances. Sarah, Ashley's sister-in-law, who had returned home after a divorce, joined in because she thought it sounded fun, and Linda entrusted Sarah with monitoring Ashley whenever she couldn't. The hardest part for Ashley was not being allowed to care for Kevin with her own hands. There was nothing more painful and sad than not being able to raise her own child, whom she had carried and given birth to, under the same roof. Linda unilaterally forbade Ashley from even seeing Kevin, and if she tried to approach Kevin's room, Sarah, the monitor, would immediately stop her. While Ashley was being forced to clean the bathroom as a punishment, Linda was having a great time with Kevin.
This is all I know.
Mike said, collapsing weakly to his knees.
Don't speak so lightly of our family's shame.
Exactly. I can't believe you'd blab such nonsense to strangers. You have really lost your nerve, bro.
That's not all, is it? There's more you're hiding, right? Mike looked up for a moment with a huh, and his face showed signs of anxiety. Just then, a taxi stopped at the entrance, and the sound of someone getting out could be heard.
Here he came.
The three members of the Thompsons were completely bewildered by the situation. Soon, a tall gentleman in his 50s appeared, and Mike's face turned pale. Looks like you know this man, don't you? Mike gave no answer, but it was clear he understood there was no escaping the situation. Without even looking our way, he just waited for time to pass.
Good evening. My name is Keith Wilson, an actor. Is this my first time meeting a Thompson family in person like this?
He glanced at each member of the Thompson family, confirming their faces one by one. In his younger days, Keith Wilson was a popular actor known to everyone for his roles in movies and TV shows, but as he aged, his popularity waned. Nowadays, he's known more for his past fame than his current work.
Why is Keith Wilson, of all people, here at our house?
Linda, speaking for the Thompson family, asked with a smile that was more of a grimace, her voice pitched high from nervousness. It was clear to anyone that she was deeply unsettled. I invited him here. Before coming, I contacted a lawyer friend of mine and asked Keith to join us.
I wonder what the connection is between Keith Wilson and us.
She tried to play it cool, but I just grinned and said, "You all must have some idea why Keith is here, right?" Soon after, the lawyer arrived, apologizing for his delay with a chuckle.
Sorry I'm late. Got caught up sorting out some documents for another case.
With the lawyer's appearance, the Thompson family fell silent.
Actually, at the request of Susan, I've been investigating Mike here for the past 6 months. We discovered he's been having frequent secret meetings with a certain woman. The woman in question is a wealthy patron at the department store where Mike works. And upon further investigation, we uncovered a shocking fact.
This woman is none other than my wife, Catherine Wilson.
Keith Wilson joined in with a calm explanation.
I was honestly surprised when Catherine brought up divorce, but somewhere in my heart, I thought, I knew it. She had been sneaking out without telling me for a while. After hearing everything from this lawyer, everything clicked. So, we decided to come here today to hear Mike's side of the story directly.
Mike slowly stood up and began to speak in a fragile voice, as if he were a shell without a soul.
As I mentioned earlier, Catherine and I met through our relationship as a major department store client and a salesperson. Over the years of working visits to her home, we found ourselves in such a relationship. At first, I thought it was just a fling, but then we discovered Catherine was pregnant, and we couldn't turn back. So, we both decided to leave our partners and remarry. I'm truly sorry.
Keith was standing tall like a warrior, and Mike clung to his feet and sobbed out an apology.
When I was celebrated as a top actor, Catherine always gave me her brightest smiles. But now, with my work dwindling, And then she met a handsome man like you. I guess she couldn't help herself. She's someone who must have whatever she fancies, you know.
Keith said with a weak laugh. Although Mike wanted a divorce from Ashley, he couldn't easily bring it up because being in an affair himself, he would be the one liable for alimony. So he turned to his mother, Linda, for help. Initially, Linda was against the divorce due to societal appearances, but changed her tune completely when she learned the other woman came from a wealthy family, eagerly offering her support. Thinking if Ashley initiated the divorce, there would be no need to pay alimony, Linda began to harass her at every opportunity, scheming to make Ashley want to leave the house on her own.
I believed in you.
Ashley, though staggering, stood firmly on her two legs, overwhelmed by frustration from being deceived by her in-laws, and burst into loud sobs.
I thought if I lost weight, Mike would surely come back to me. That's why I could endure any unreasonable treatment from Linda or Sarah. To think it was all a plot to drive me out.
It's okay now. You've done nothing wrong. You don't have to try so hard anymore. I hugged my daughter tightly.
It's true I wanted a divorce from Ashley. But never in my wildest dreams did I think Mom and Sarah would go to such extremes. Even I'm appalled.
Hold on a minute. I was only trying to help you out by getting Ashley out of this house. It's your affair that started all this trouble.
Exactly. You've been turning a blind eye to everything we've been doing for her, acting like you had no idea. Don't pretend to be innocent now.
Witnessing three people hurling insults at each other, I was utterly speechless, but next to me, Ashley, trembling, burst out.
Enough is enough. If you so desperately want me gone, I'll leave on my own accord.
Oh, really? Well, that would be helpful.
It's wrong to be pleased, Linda. I will never forgive you. Once we're divorced, expect a hefty alimony claim from me, just so you're prepared.
With that, Ashley's voice filled the house. Kevin, where are you? Come here. We're going to live at your grandparents' house from now on.
Okay, got it.
Kevin cheerfully ran down the stairs from his room and hugged Ashley. Later, Mike was fired from his company for an affair with a client that severely damaged the company's image. Ashley, as she had declared, filed for divorce and demanded a substantial amount of alimony. Having lost his job and now faced with alimony payments, Mike, after a huge fight with Linda and Sarah, was forced to reluctantly sell the house. Ashley's fury did not end there. She also demanded a significant amount of compensation for mental and physical distress from Linda and Sarah. Despite being harassed by Linda and Sarah, Ashley had been diligently documenting the situation in a notebook daily, which proved advantageous in court. Ashley's health and spirit gradually recovered after moving back to our home, and she became her cheerful self again. Despite ongoing issues with the Thompson family, everything was resolved with the help of a skilled lawyer. Rumor has it that Mike and Catherine had a child. After losing his job and home, Mike, living on Catherine's financial support, lost all will to work and became increasingly unkempt. To make matters worse, elderly Linda and nagging Sarah followed him, which was too much for Catherine, raised in luxury, leading her to leave with their child. After Catherine left, what became of the Thompson family is beyond me and of no interest.
Well then, it's time I got back to work after slacking off too much.
With that resolve, Ashley began helping out at our restaurant due to my back pain. Ashley, who had previously worked in customer service at a major department store, quickly became well regarded locally, turning the restaurant into a bustling place with lines out the door. With a new star at the restaurant, I have no regrets. I stepped back from our business and spent my free time watching over Kevin. Kevin is about to enter middle school and declared at his elementary school graduation that he wants to be a cool chef like his grandpa, making me and John cry. We can't wait to see what the future holds for Kevin.
This winter marked the first for my grandson, Tyler, since he was born. The weather forecast reported a record-breaking cold snap for the day. I wonder if they're okay. The first thing that came to mind was my deal, Emma and newborn Tyler. I hope they both haven't fallen ill from the cold. I was worried and sent Emma a message on my smartphone that night. Are you and your baby catching a cold? However, when I sent her a message twice and thrice, she doesn't reply or even read it. She's a serious person, so I hope she's not pushing herself too hard. After waiting another hour, I tried calling just in case, but the result was the same. This isn't like her at all. Without a second thought, I threw on a thick jacket and rushed out of my house, driving to the apartment complex where my son's family lived. No response when I rang the doorbell, and imagining Emma collapsed inside, I immediately called the building manager to unlock the door. Inside, it was dark, with only the faint glow of the streetlights seeping in. I groped along the wall, relying on memory to find the light switch. But no matter how many times I flipped it on and off, the lights wouldn't respond. What's going on here? My mind was about to explode with anxiety and frustration. I reluctantly used my smartphone's light to step inside. Emma, are you here? Maybe they were just out. Just as I was about to turn back, I thought I heard the faint cry of a baby from the bedroom. Emma, are you there? I immediately headed to the bedroom. Emma. There was Emma, shivering with cold, but desperately wrapping Tyler in a sheet to protect him. Are you okay? What's wrong with you? Shining the light, I was shocked to see Emma's pride and joy. Her long black hair was now chopped short, almost to a buzz cut. This is terrible. How could this happen? My name is Monica Davis, 61 years old. I've worked as a hairstylist for many years at a beauty salon that's also my home. Chatting leisurely with familiar customers during work is my greatest joy. My husband and I originally started the salon, but he passed away from cancer when he was young. It was not long after my son Max was born. Nevertheless, I pressed on, raising Max by myself. However, despite my efforts, Max wouldn't listen to me, starting to skip school in high school. When he did go, he caused trouble, and I was often called to apologize to his teachers. After graduating high school, Max didn't pursue further education and began hanging out in the city every day. Maybe it was his inferiority complex about not having a father. or perhaps my failure as a mother? Unsure of the answer, I always worried about Max's future. So, when Max suddenly said one day, "I want to be a hairstylist," I was so surprised I pinched my cheek, thinking I was dreaming. "What made you think so?" "Well, hairstylists get all the ladies, right?" Max replied with a smirk. "Looks like you do end up following in your parents' footsteps." Regardless of the reason, I took it positively that my son showed motivation for his future for the first time. Max smoothly graduated from beauty school and started working as an apprentice in a senior's salon. That's where he met his future wife, Emma, who was also working there. After a relentless pursuit, Max confidently told me, "I've decided to marry her," when introducing Emma to me.
Nice to meet you. My name's Emma. I've heard you are also a hairstylist. I'm looking forward to learning from you.
Emma was a charming woman with a bright smile, and her long black hair suited her well. "Nice to meet you, too." The moment I saw Emma, I liked her instantly. One day, a year after their marriage, Max started talking about wanting to open his own salon. Though he hadn't been an apprentice for long, Max seemed to have gained a lot of confidence as a hairstylist.
Since I've become a hairstylist, I want to open my own salon and prove my skills on my own.
To be honest, I was a bit anxious. With years of experience, I knew all too well that this industry isn't kind enough for a newbie to easily start their own business. Yet, I couldn't ignore Max's earnest desire as he spoke of his dream with such serious eyes. "How much do you have for startup funds?" When I asked, Max gave me the deposit amount with a sigh and a slightly troubled expression. Despite the steady income from his apprenticeship, he was spending just as much as he earned. With this pattern, there was no way he could afford to start his own business. Max had squandered most of his earnings on leisure activities. Perhaps I should have advised him to give up then. But I just smiled and said, "Don't worry about the money," indulging my son's whim. Maybe it was my way of making up for the loneliness of growing up without a father. Truth be told, I had never touched the life insurance money left by my late husband. It's for Max, after all. You would forgive me, right? Gazing at the portrait of my late husband, I spoke to him in my heart. A regular customer of mine, who was knowledgeable in real estate, gave me advice.
"That place would be perfect."
It was a barber shop until half a year ago, but the owner had retired due to old age. The location wasn't bad, and she strongly recommended it for Max's new venture. When it came time for renovations, other regulars said, "Use my husband, he just lazes around at home on his days off, and my son's studying architecture in college and is home for the summer break. He can help out as part of his studies." Thanks to everyone's help, the renovation went smoothly, and we successfully got the approval of the beauty salon, and the opening of the shop was quick.
I never thought I could start my own business so quickly.
Remember to be grateful to everyone. You couldn't have done it alone.
I know, Mom. I'm grateful to you. Then
I gave Max a rest of my husband's inheritance. The purchase and renovation costs ended up being much cheaper than expected, so there was more than half of the inheritance left. This is a gift from your dad to you. Use it wisely for the business expenses and don't waste it.
Yay, I know. I'm not a kid anymore.
Max replied with a forced laugh.
Don't worry, Monica. I'll keep a close eye on Max to make sure he doesn't spend it on anything strange.
Emma said with a cheerful smile, making me laugh involuntarily. With Emma, a reliable person, helping out, I didn't need to worry about Max anymore. I optimistically decided to watch over their business from a distance. However, I soon realized my optimism was misplaced. Emma would sometimes visit my salon after work to update me, and each time, her expression grew darker. 3 months after Max's salon opened.
Max is not putting his heart into his work, and it's becoming a problem.
What, Max? Why?
He was all excited at the beginning. With my skills, the salon will surely thrive, he said enthusiastically. But after a month, his smile vanished, and he started treating customers coldly. As this continued for 3 months, the salon's reputation worsened through word of mouth, and eventually, customers stopped coming.
Hearing Emma's report, I was in disbelief. Max had expressed a desire to own his own shop. Despite his eagerness before the opening, what could have possibly happened in such a short period?
It seems Max thought that being skilled as a hairstylist was enough and underestimated the importance of customer service. But running a shop is not that simple.
Emma sighed as she said that. Indeed, as Emma pointed out, running a salon isn't as simple as being skilled as a hairstylist. In customer service, the way you treat your clients significantly impacts the business's success or failure. It seems like Max is missing that basic understanding. So, how is Max doing?
He seems to be getting more frustrated because we're not getting customers, spending his days drinking. This way, he can't focus on his work, and we're only driving customers further away. For now, I handle the customers when they come in, but if the salon's reputation continues to drop, managing it will get even tougher.
Emma looked like she was about to cry, and I felt the same way. Okay, I'll talk to him next time.
Thank you.
Emma deeply bowed her head, then brushed back her long black hair. Emma, your hair always mesmerizes me. I changed the subject to lighten the somber mood. I have kept my long hair since I was in middle school, Emma said proudly. Since then, is there a special reason?
Do you know about hair donation?
Emma looked at me earnestly. Hair donation. I remember hearing about it at a hairstylist meeting, but I don't know much about it. Emma's eyes lit up as she answered.
It's about making wigs with real hair for children who've lost theirs due to congenital conditions, illness, or accidents. I aim to grow my hair and donate to organizations involved in this activity. Isn't it wonderful to be able to help someone? I once read a magazine feature about an actress who was growing her hair for hair donation, thinking maybe I could do that too.
Wow, Emma, you're so young and yet so admirable. I was overwhelmed by Emma's passion, which also deeply moved me. 6 months after marrying Max, Emma got pregnant. She has always been earnest, and she tends to overdo things if I'm not watching. Emma, this is the most crucial time. You mustn't overdo it. I repeatedly warned her, to the point of sounding like a broken record. Each time, Emma would lightly laugh and say, "Don't worry, I'll consult with the baby in my belly and make sure not to overexert myself." But to anyone looking, it didn't seem like she was resting at all. Ultimately, Emma kept working in the salon to support the household until she was nearly due, but Max's behavior had worsened more than ever before. What is he thinking? Every time I received an update from Emma, I felt my inadequacies as a mother. One day, after finishing work early, I went to check on my son and daughter-in-law's salon, just as Max was heading out. "Where are you going?"
I am going out to drink. It's not like we're getting any customers today.
Without any sign of panic, Max laughed off his situation as if it were a joke. The lack of customers had become the norm for Max, and he no longer showed any effort to improve the situation. "You're going to be a father soon." Even when I tried to admonish him, Max dismissively waved his hand as if shooing away a fly and hopped on his motorcycle. "We're not done talking. Try to put yourself in Emma's shoes for once."
Yeah, I'll think about it if I feel like it.
With that, Max laughed and sped off on his motorcycle, ignoring my words. Inside the salon, Emma was cleaning the floor.
Today, we managed to get just one customer,
Emma said with a cheerful smile, though she looked too worn for a pregnant woman. "Are you eating properly? Make sure you're getting enough nutrients."
Don't worry, Monica.
"I'm not saying it for you. I'm saying it for the baby you're carrying." My tone was harsher than usual, but I felt it was necessary to scold her. Emma seemed to understand my true intention and tearfully said, "Thank you." At times like this, how can the father not be there to support her? I wanted to scream at Max, who wasn't there, from the bottom of my heart. Emma shared that the salon's business was far from thriving. "And Max has been out every night, spending money like water. I shouldn't have given him his father's inheritance." I regretted my decision, albeit too late. Despite her busy schedule, Emma never neglected her hair care. Gently stroking her belly, she said,
I want to teach the child I'm carrying the importance of being helpful to others.
I wanted to be a support for Emma. In place of my useless son, I decided to visit their apartment to help out with whatever Emma needed.
I'm always sorry to trouble you.
Don't worry about it. Just focus on the baby in your belly. It was my fault for the way I raised my son. Because of that, Emma was suffering. Perhaps this was my way of atoning, in my own small way. As summer ended, Emma went into labor earlier than expected and was rushed to the hospital. Even then, Max was unreachable, leaving us wondering where he might be wandering off to. I kept sending messages to Max, but no reply came, not even a read receipt. What is he doing at a time like this? Emma's parents had both passed away, leaving me as the only one who could be by her side. Don't worry, Emma, I'm here for you. To Emma, who was facing childbirth with all her might, I offered words of encouragement time and time again. After a long and difficult labor, the vigorous cries of the baby finally reached my ears. It's your baby. Well done, Emma. Tears welled up in my eyes, but Max, you should have been there, never showed up once. Winter came, marking the first for my grandson Tyler since his birth. The weather forecast reported a record-breaking cold snap. No wonder it was too cold to get out of bed. I wonder if they're okay. The first thing that came to mind was Emma and newborn Tyler. I hope they both haven't fallen ill from the cold. Worried, I sent Emmy a message on my smartphone that night. Are you and your baby catching a cold? However, when I sent her a message twice and thrice, she doesn't reply or even read it. I grew concerned that Emma might be too ill to respond. She's always been so responsible. I hope she's not overdoing it. After waiting another hour, I tried calling just to be sure, but the result was the same. This isn't good. Without a second thought, I put on a thick jacket and rushed out of my house, driving to the apartment complex where my son's family lived. Arriving at the apartment, I was shrouded in darkness. It's not uncommon for families to live overseas from the end of the year into the new year, but I hadn't heard anything about a trip from Emma and Max, and they shouldn't have the financial means for such a trip anyway. No response when I rang the doorbell, and imagining Emma collapsed inside, I immediately called the building manager to unlock the door.
I'll wait outside, so please let me know if you find anything.
I thanked the manager, stepping into the apartment. The place was dark, with only the faint glow of the street lights seeping in. I remembered there was a light switch right by the entrance. Relying on memory, I groped along the wall to find the switch. But no matter how many times I tried, the lights wouldn't respond. What's going on here? Overwhelmed with anxiety and irritation, I reluctantly used my smartphone's light to venture further inside. Emma, are you there? I called out in the living room, but there was no response. Maybe they were just out. Just as I was about to turn back, I thought I heard the faint sound of a baby from the bedroom. Emma, are you there? I immediately headed towards the bedroom, where I heard the noise. Emma. There was Emma, shivering from the cold, yet desperately wrapping newborn Tyler in a sheet to protect him. What happened? When I shone the light, I was shocked to find that Emma's long black hair, once her pride and joy, was now chopped off, leaving her almost bald. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. This is terrible. How did this happen? I took off my jacket and draped it over Emma. It's okay now. You don't have to force yourself to talk if it's difficult, but can you tell me what happened? Emma began to speak slowly. After Tyler was born, Max continued his daily escapades unchanged. Eventually, unable to pay the electricity bill, Em reached her limit and finally scolded Max. She wished he would show more awareness as a father. Emma had hoped for that, but her feelings never reached Max. In a rage, Max began to cut Emma's hair with a pair of practice hairdressing scissors he happened to find nearby. Emma initially tried to resist and said, "Stop." But, worried that any further resistance might accidentally harm Tyler, she stopped resisting. Max laughed and said, Now you can't show your face in public. I was speechless at my son's cruel actions. Why didn't you tell me it had come to this?
I'm sorry, Monica. I'm so sorry.
Emma started blaming herself again. No, Emma, it's not your fault. I'm not blaming you. The one at fault here is Max. You haven't done anything wrong. Emma must have thought she shouldn't worry me and decided not to tell me anything. I hugged Emma tightly as she sobbed. The cause of all this was my indulgence in raising Max to this point. My heart burned with anger at my own inadequacy and at my son, who could not understand the pain of others. Taking a deep breath, I called Max.
Mom, long time no see. What's up all of a sudden?
Just wanted to hear your voice after so long. How are things on your end? Are Emma and Tyler doing well?
Of course, everyone's doing great.
No one's answering at home. Where are you? After a pause, as if he was concocting an excuse, Max's voice halted.
Actually, we're in Hawaii, the three of us. We'll be back next week.
Oh, Hawaii, that sounds nice. Max confidently lied, thinking I was clueless. What was the point of all the care I had provided for Max? After losing my husband at a young age, I worked tirelessly as a hairstylist. All to make Max a respectable person. When Max wanted to become independent as a hairstylist, I didn't hesitate to fulfill his wish. Yet, Max squandered the inheritance left by his father on his pleasures, completely disregarding my feelings. Moreover, to treat his own wife and child with such cruelty was something I could never forgive. My hope for Max turned into disappointment.
What do you want for a souvenir? Look forward to it.
Anything's fine. So you're coming back next week? Yes, safely, then.
Hey, Mom, you sound concerned. Is something wrong, Mom?
Max seemed to be saying something more, but I hung up without bothering to listen. After thanking the apartment manager who was waiting outside, I decided to take Emma and Tyler back to my house. Then I made calls to every place I could think of. A week passed, and Max called my smartphone. He was in a good mood, saying he had just landed at the airport.
I'm back. I even bought souvenirs for you, Mom.
Max was trying to play the affectionate son now, but my heart wasn't fooled anymore. That's nice, I replied in a flat tone, but Max seemed not to notice anything was off. About an hour later, a taxi stopped in front of the apartment complex. Max, with distinct tan lines from sunglasses around his eyes, indicating a fun trip to Hawaii, began unloading a pile of luggage from the trunk. He took out his keys and headed towards what he thought was his home, expecting the door to open easily. He must have thought the door would open immediately once he inserted and turned the key. However, the key wouldn't fit into the lock, no matter how many times he tried.
What the hell is this? What's going on?
Max exclaimed in frustration. I approached him from behind and asked with a smile, "Was your trip to Hawaii enjoyable?" Though my heart was boiling with anger.
Mom, you're here.
Max seemed relieved to see me, misunderstanding my presence.
Listen, Mom, I just got back and tried to get into the house, but the key won't fit. It must be some kind of prank by Emma because I went on a trip alone. She's probably mad at me.
He wanted to play the victim, blaming everything on Emma. Leaving Emma, who just gave birth, and newborn Tyler behind. What were you doing?
I've told you 100 times. I was with my family in Hawaii.
Didn't you just say you went on the trip alone? I pointed out his contradiction, leaving Max speechless. How could you lie about going to Hawaii with your family? Emma was left without electricity, shivering in the cold, holding Tyler close to protect him. And to think you cut off Emma's long hair she cherished so much, doesn't it hurt you as a human being?
I admit that was wrong, but right now, I want to get inside. It's freezing here.
Max showed no remorse, rubbing his arms exaggeratedly. The cold Emma and Tyler experienced wasn't anything like this. Plus, you no longer have a home here. I've already canceled the apartment lease. It's time you find your own place to live.
Canceled. Why would you do something like that?
Max panicked, but the apartment lease was in my name. I decided to take Max to a nearby cafe to talk things over, as we couldn't keep standing outside. Max sipped his coffee silently, probably unable to taste anything. With a pale expression, Max's gaze shifted back and forth between my face and the coffee. Struggling with money to the point you couldn't even pay the electricity bill, and yet you went to Hawaii.
That was.
Max frowned, eventually starting to explain his selfish reasoning. Right after opening his shop, Max wanted to impress his friends and female clients he picked up at the store, so he spent his late husband's inheritance on leisure activities. Max knew that such spending would quickly deplete even a large inheritance. However, having acquired a taste for the power of money, Max continued to buy gifts for his friends and take them on trips, even going into debt after exhausting the inheritance. Quite generous for a failing business.
No worries, I'm a professional hairstylist. If I put in the effort, clients will come flooding in, and I'll be able to support my family.
Max confidently replied, but where his confidence came from was a mystery to me. As for your salon, it's already been sold. I sold all the equipment too. It's too late to try to get it back now. I shattered his baseless confidence.
That's a lie. Why would you do something like that?
Max slammed the table, his face turning red. Oh, you cared about the salon. I thought you had abandoned it since you left everything to Emma. Besides, I bought that building and land in my name. You have no right to complain now.
But I was gathering clients. I had a plan.
Max had the look of a child about to cry, one who couldn't get the toy he wanted. If you're so confident in your skills, you'll be able to start over from zero quickly. After coldly turning my back on my son, I left the coffee shop, leaving behind only the money for the coffee on the table. A month passed. Both Emma and I had been avoiding any contact with Max, but unpleasant rumors inevitably reached a parent's ears. After being rejected by me, Max apparently turned to his friends, desperately asking for money. However, Those who had gathered around Max were initially attracted by his wealth. Predictably, none of them were willing to help now that Max had lost his financial power. Furthermore, he got reported to the police for stalking the female clients he picked up in his salon. Although he got off with a stern warning from the police, Max, having realized his lack of genuine connections, completely vanished from our lives. By now, he's likely living alone, haunted by the harsh demands of creditors. All of this was the result of seeds Max had sown himself. My anger towards Max wasn't just about his reckless spending. Even more unforgivable was how he neglected Emma and Tyler, pushing them into a life of hardship. And then there was the fact that Max had selfishly chopped off the long hair that Emma had been growing and cherishing for years. That foolish act might have robbed unknown children, who had been eagerly awaiting Emma's hair, of a brighter future. As a hairstylist myself, Max's actions are inexcusable. It will take a long time for Max to truly understand the pain Emma endured. Emma herself wouldn't speak of her heartache, but it's clear she's not unscathed. She likely keeps her feelings to herself to avoid worrying me. Wanting to do something for her, I reached out through my connections in the beauty industry to have a wig made specifically for Emma. It won't make up for my son's actions, but please use this.
Thank you, Monica.
Emma said with a smile, but tears were rolling down her cheeks. Using my back pain as an excuse, I asked Emma to help out in my salon. She threw herself into the work, perhaps trying to forget her emotional pain.
Hello, Tyler.
The regular customer greeted, and Tyler, lying in his cradle, laughed out loud. Now, some customers come just to see Tyler. He's like a little mascot for the salon. Slowly regaining her physical and emotional strength, Emma has started taking steps toward officially divorcing Max.
Seeing Emma's smile makes us all feel like we've turned back the clock by 20 years.
One of the regulars said it in jest, but there's no denying that Emma and Tyler's presence has brightened up the shop. Drawn by Emma's cheerful atmosphere, many other mothers have become regulars. All right, let's make today a great day too. Come in. Good morning. The salon is filled with smiles again today. In a corner, Tyler is sleeping soundly, breathing softly, and looking adorable. Emily placed instant noodles in front of me.
There's only enough for the family.
I couldn't understand what Emily was saying.
And then, should we head home?
Ken, with just those words, started towards the entrance. Yes. I stood up from my seat and followed Ken. I'm so sorry for everything that's happened. Like a dam breaking, I told Ken everything up until now. How suddenly Emily's attitude towards me changed. My name is Hannah Yarnold. I'm a 56-year-old homemaker. My husband's name is Ken. Ken and I worked at the same company. It was what you'd call an office romance. I was in accounting, and Ken was in sales, different departments, but Ken often dropped by accounting. Ken would distribute souvenirs from his business trips to those in accounting. Ken was thoughtful and kind. Whenever I went to the sales department to check on receipts, Ken was always the first to help. Even if it wasn't his fault, Ken would always apologize. He was sincere in his dealings, and his smile was kind. I was secretly attracted to him but too embarrassed to say anything, so our relationship as colleagues continued for a while. Then, at one point, it was discovered that one of the employees had been falsifying receipts. Ken cooperated with the accounting department to uncover the truth and resolve the issue. After that, Ken invited me out for a meal under the pretext of a consolation party. I thought it would be a group going out, but it was just only us. I was surprised, but more than that, I was happy. Dinner with Ken was so enjoyable that I lost track of time. Ken and I had similar farts, such as it was fun for us to get the money right when doing bookkeeping. After that, we went out for meals and on dates several times. After about half a year of dating, Ken proposed to me. I pretended to think it over, but I was incredibly happy. I planned to keep him in suspense for about a week, but my happiness won out, and I told him, okay, the next day. Ken has always been very kind from when we first met. And even after we got married, he always thinks of me. He makes sure we have quality time as a couple. I think I'm truly lucky to have married Ken. I continued working after we got married, but I quit my job when I became pregnant with our eldest son, Tyler. Tyler's birth was difficult. He was breech. It could be dangerous for either baby or mom, the doctor told Ken. We doted on Tyler when he was born safe. Tyler was a mischievous child, leaving the house covered in scribbles, and he would take apart his toys almost immediately. Despite this, we never got mad at Tyler, letting him grow up freely and without restraint. Due to risks associated with pregnancy and childbirth, Ken and I had decided to only have Tyler. Tyler was an incredibly precious treasure to us. During his time in kindergarten and early elementary school, he was quite wild, causing quite a bit of trouble for his teachers. We were warned about his behavior numerous times during parent-teacher meeting. However, as he moved into the upper grades of elementary school, he began to show more discretion, and his behavior improved significantly. From then on, Tyler seemed to become quite the model student. He excelled academically, serving as the president of the student council. He was also the captain of his extracurricular club. He never scored below an A on any test. Yet, Tyler hardly seemed to study at home. Even when I peeked into his room, he was usually lounging around reading comics. When I asked, "Are you studying?" he'd simply respond, "Yeah, I am," without looking up from his comics. However, Tyler's grades never slipped. He must have been putting in the effort when I wasn't aware. Tyler chose to attend a local public middle school and high school. Even though his grades could have easily gotten him into a more prestigious private school, he chose the public school closest to our home. Throughout middle school and high school, he consistently ranked at the top of his class and served as student council president. He went on to attend a local public university. In college, he seemed to focus more on volunteering and other activities than on his studies. When it came time for job hunting, Tyler only applied to local companies. Given his academic record, he could have landed a job at a major corporation or even an international firm. I found it curious that he chose smaller, local companies. I asked him why.
I've kind of always wanted to work locally since high school.
It turned out, a high school project on our hometown sparked his interest in staying local. He chose the local university and sought to deepen his understanding of our town through volunteer work. I was genuinely impressed by his thoughtful planning, having had no idea he felt this way. That's amazing, you've really thought this through. I praised him.
It's nothing special,
he said with a bashful smile. Tyler got his wish and secured a job at a local company, graduating from university without issue. I thought he would commute from our house, but he decided to rent an apartment closer to work.
It's all about the experience,
he said. He wanted to understand the challenges of managing a household on his own. Our home felt eerily quiet without Tyler around. But then again, it was just like when Ken and I first got married. I decided to enjoy the quiet life with Ken again. Thanks to Tyler attending public schools, we had quite a bit of savings left. Our mortgage was almost paid off, and it looked like we could settle the balance around the time Ken retired. Additionally, my parents own a broad apartment rental business. Eventually, it seems I'll take over the apartment management. We won't have to worry about our retirement. Tyler's apartment was close enough that he could visit us by bike, so we didn't feel so lonely. After a few years of this peaceful life, Tyler mentioned, "I have someone I want you to meet." He was 26 years old at the time. Tyler brought the woman home with him.
Let me introduce you. This is Emily.
Emily works in the accounting department of the same company as Tyler. When Ken and I heard this, we looked at each other and shared a laugh. Tyler and Emily looked at us curiously. While laughing, Ken started to talk about how he and I got to know each other. Listening to our story, Tyler and Emily also exchanged glances and smiled. Emily is petite, and when she laughs, the corners of her eyes droop down, giving her a very cute and kind impression. Emily seemed restless, looking around our house curiously. This behavior, akin to a little bird scanning its surroundings, was charming. Ken and I quickly took a liking to Emily. If we had been harsh in our judgment of her at that moment, the incident that followed might never have occurred. There was a hidden reason behind Emily's surveying of our house. Ken and I failed to notice.
Pleased to meet you.
Even just hearing her voice, I thought Emily was too good for Tyler, as she came across very pleasantly. Emily is a great listener, making even the usually quiet Ken engage in lively conversation with her. The four of us enjoyed a delightful dinner together. After Tyler and Emily left, Ken and I were relieved and happy that Tyler had chosen such a great partner. Somehow, I felt as though a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Tyler and Emily's relationship progressed smoothly, and they decided to get married. They held their wedding at a local venue, where they were blessed by everyone. For Ken and me, it was one of the most memorable days of our lives. However, we could never have imagined that from this point on, our lives would start to spiral into misfortune. At first, we thought it was just a coincidence, or perhaps Emily wasn't feeling well, but it seemed that wasn't the case. Her attitude towards me became increasingly worse day by day. When I tried to discuss what to make for dinner with Emily, she initially pretended not to hear me. Then, her usual response would be something like, "What is it?" as if it was a bother. I was intimidated by Emily's attitude. I was thinking about what to make for dinner. Emily's responses were always cold.
Oh, whatever is fine. Why don't you decide, Hannah?
The atmosphere was not at all conducive to discussion. It was clear that Emily's attitude had changed significantly from when we first met. And it was only towards me. More than being angry, I was perplexed. I didn't want to ruin our relationship with Emily, so I ended up being overly accommodating. "Well, how about chicken curry for today?"
That sounds fine.
Emily would end our conversations with a hint of annoyance. I quickly got started on preparing the curry. Then, without offering to help, Emily would make comments like, "That ingredient, what about the spices?" as if she was picking on everything I did. Ignoring her remarks, I continued to cook the curry in silence. As I cooked, I wondered if I had done something terrible to Emily. But I couldn't think of anything. Had I said something to upset her? Had I done something offensive? I tried desperately to remember, but nothing came to mind. Honestly, I had no clue. Even after that, Emily's attitude didn't change. Every time Emily treated me terribly, I would wonder if I had done something to her. But I couldn't understand why Emily was being so awful towards me. I felt like the reason for Emily's change in attitude wasn't me but something else. This was just a hunch, with no certainty. A year passed, and Emily's attitude towards me remained the same. On the contrary, it had gotten even worse.
Hey, Hannah, this dish looks awful.
Emily began to openly criticize my cooking. She now openly insulted me.
The seasoning looks too strong, and doesn't it look bad?
I couldn't help but talk back. "Well, that's how we always cook it here." Emily would snort at my words and mock me.
Oh really? How lame.
I was honestly quite irritated by Emily's attitude. If you're going to complain that much, why don't you try cooking by yourself next time?
Scary, you are so scary.
Emily exaggeratedly acted frightened. Loudly enough for Ken and Tyler in the living room to hear, perhaps intentionally. I was scared of Emily's calculated behavior. Anyway, Emily's attitude was only visible when we were alone. She kept making provoking remarks towards me. I thought about consulting Ken or Tyler many times, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Emily was exceedingly devoted to Ken, and she got along well with Tyler too. So I thought I just had to endure it. I didn't want to ruin the relationship.
Today's dinner is oven-baked rockfish, made by Hannah.
Emily served the dish with an incredible smile. After being bombarded with sarcasm by Emily in the kitchen, I could only force a wry smile.
It looks delicious,
Ken said as he took his seat. Tyler smiled as well.
Hannah can cook delicious meals, and she's great at laundry and cleaning. I really admire her.
Emily turned to me with a smile. Honestly, I felt sick.
Hannah, you're really amazing.
Ken and Tyler, unaware of Emily's hidden face, looked on fondly as she praised me. Thank you, I responded with a forced smile. To an outsider, my expression might have seemed awkward. Seeing Emily's smile, one wouldn't think she treated me terribly. The best I can expect is to be accused of lying. I feared being labeled a liar by Ken and Tyler. I thought if I kept enduring without consulting anyone, Emily's attitude might change. However, Emily's harsh words and attitude towards me never ceased. Emily continued to complain about my cooking being awful. Yet, she did nothing herself. She didn't even clean up after meals. And if there's even the slightest thing wrong, she's quick to complain. One day, Emily threw unbearable words at me.
Hannah, are you sane with that seasoning?
Unable to hold back, I retorted to Emily. Got a problem? Emily, as always, pretended to be shockingly surprised.
Nothing at all. Scary.
What's with that tone? Stop mocking me already. It seemed like my serious gaze made Emily flinch a bit.
I'm not mocking,
Emily muttered, biting her lip and glaring at me. It's always so unpleasant. I continued.
Shut up, a woman like you.
It was as if Emily's facade had slipped. Suddenly, her face twisted into ugliness.
Being treated roughly is just right for you?
Emily continued to hurl insults at me.
Really tacky, not good looking, and a bad personality too. You being a mill is unbelievable.
Emily couldn't stop bad-mouthing me. To mock me to this extent must mean she really dislikes me. But still, I can't understand the nerve to say such terrible things, even to someone you dislike. Then, I think, she should just not come over and keep her distance. I became sad. It's sad to think you felt that way. Emily yelled out, as if she was upset.
Well, really, I've had enough.
Hey, are you okay?
From the living room, Tyler called out. Emily's loud voice had reached the living room.
Heard a loud voice.
As Emily and I were arguing, Tyler came from the living room to the kitchen. Seeing Tyler's face, Emily seemed to regain her composure.
Sorry, there was a cockroach?
I also matched Emily's tone. That's right, sorry for being noisy.
We'll handle the cockroach ourselves. It's fine.
Emily said, pushing Tyler's back towards the living room.
So,
Tyler said, then went back to the living room. Neither Emily nor I had any intention of involving Tyler and Ken. This was a problem between Emily and me. Afterwards, the relationship between me and Emily remained unchanged. An unpleasant mood continued to linger between us. However, about 6 months later, happy news came into Tyler's family. Tyler and Emily were expecting a child. I hoped this would change the relationship with Emily. After getting pregnant, Emily was cautious and drastically reduced her visits to our house. I finally got back to a peaceful daily life for the first time in a while. While Emily was away, I kept thinking about why she had changed her attitude. I couldn't think of anything that might have caused it. There was just one thing that bothered me, but could that really have upset her so much? Shaking my head in disbelief, I went out shopping. When Emily entered her second trimester, she and Tyler came over to our house. I had thought that with a baby on the way, Emily's attitude would have settled down. But I was too optimistic. As soon as she saw me, Emily reverted to her terrible behavior.
You know, unlike you, everything's going smoothly with my pregnancy.
Please rest on the couch because you need to take care of yourself. I told Emily that, but Emily just hurled insults at me.
No way. If I let you cook, who knows what we'd end up eating?
And then, unbelievably, Emily said, I need to keep an eye on things. What does she mean by keep an eye? Did Emily really see me that way?
You can talk back if you want, but I'm fine no matter what you, who could only have one child, say.
Oh, is that so? I replied, trying to keep a calm exterior, but I was not at peace inside. I felt guilty for not being able to give Tyler a sibling. Deep down, I felt sorry for Tyler. I compensated by pouring all my love into him and ensuring we spent a lot of quality time together. Ken and I could live a relaxed life together. I had no regrets about that. As I fell silent, Emily piled on more complaints.
That reaction. Can't even talk back. How lame.
I didn't understand what Emily wanted or why she was doing this. Deciding I couldn't deal with it anymore, I chose to ignore her. Months later, Tyler and Emily had a healthy baby girl. For Ken and me, she was our first grandchild. We were overjoyed. We eagerly awaited the day we could meet our granddaughter. I hoped that having a child would improve my relationship with Emily. With my experience in child rearing, I could teach her a lot. But my hopes were dashed. This became clear during our granddaughter's introduction party. The truth behind Emily's actions was also revealed. A week after Emily and the baby came home from the hospital, Ken and I rushed to Tyler's apartment with gifts for the newborn. We brought loads of presents for our granddaughter, like swaddles, baby carriers, diapers, and formula. Emily looked a bit worn out, but seemed well. I noticed her eyes turn cold when she saw me, but I was too excited to see my granddaughter to care. The baby was sleeping peacefully in her crib. Seeing Tyler as a father was deeply moving. He looked more mature. I laid out the groceries I had bought on the table. Thinking they wouldn't have had time to cook, I brought plenty of ready-to-eat meals for Tyler and Emily. As I started to prepare the meal in the kitchen, Emily strangely insisted.
I'll do it. Please sit down.
You don't have to push yourself, I said, but Emily pushed me down into a chair.
It's okay, really.
Feeling a strange pressure from Emily's behavior, I reluctantly sat down. As Emily served the side dishes on plates in front of Ken and Tyler.
Here you go, please enjoy.
I was thinking my portion would come later, when Emily only placed one plate on the table. But not in front of me, but at her own seat. I had a bad feeling about this, but kept quiet.
Oops, my bad. I forgot your portion.
Ken and Tyler laughed. It seemed like I was the only one with a bad premonition. However, Emily's next action made even Ken and Tyler freeze. She placed instant noodles in front of me.
We only have enough for the family.
I couldn't comprehend what Emily was saying. As I sat frozen, Emily, laughing, added insult to injury.
You're not family. You're a stranger. Isn't that obvious?
I couldn't grasp what Emily meant by not family. It dawned on me that Emily's feelings towards me hadn't changed at all. That's when Ken stood up.
And then, shall we head home?
All Ken said was that, before heading towards the entrance. Yes. I stood up and followed Ken. In the apartment lobby, I apologized to Ken. I'm sorry for what happened. Ken looked at me with a gentle smile.
It's Emily, who should be sorry. What happened?
I poured out everything to Ken, like breaking a dam. About how Emily suddenly changed her attitude towards me. And she pretended to be friendly in front of Ken and Tyler. Ken looked into my eyes and nodded slowly. I asked Ken why he believed everything I said.
Well, I never would have thought Emily could do something like that.
I would think the same if I were in Ken's shoes. Emily had been playing her cards well.
You wouldn't lie, especially not to speak ill of someone.
Ken trusted me. That made me incredibly happy. Ken murmured as if to himself.
It would be unthinkable for me, your husband, not to believe you.
Tears started to well up in my eyes. Ken handed me a handkerchief with a laugh.
It's also my fault for not realizing it sooner.
That couldn't be helped. I had kept it a secret, after all.
I'm really sorry.
Ken's words made my tears unstoppable.
Don't worry about it. I'm here for you.
Thank you, I said, my voice choked with tears. How dependable Ken was. I was moved by Ken's kindness. As I was about to leave the apartment building's lobby, my phone rang. Checking the screen, it was from Tyler. Feeling sorry for ruining the celebration of our first grandchild, I answered the call. Tyler's call was to say, I want to talk things over properly, so please come back. He wanted to apologize for Emily's rudeness, and also mentioned that Emily's behavior had been odd. I consulted with Ken, and we decided to return together. Opening the front door, Tyler welcomed us. Instead of the living room, Tyler guided us to the nursery, which was still being set up. There was a study desk and a bed, and I couldn't help but laugh at how eager they seemed.
I'm really sorry about Emily. You guys have been having trouble for a while, haven't you?
It seemed like Tyler had noticed something.
Back when there was yelling in the kitchen, you were having trouble then, too, right?
That's right. I had made up a story about a cockroach to Tyler. Tyler had realized it. After getting married, I explained to Tyler that Emily's attitude had changed quite quickly. Tyler listened silently, but his fists were clenched tightly.
I'm truly sorry.
Tyler believed what I said. I had thought Tyler might defend Emily and call my story a lie. Tears started to well up in my eyes again.
Emily and I have decided to get a divorce.
Ken and I were so surprised that we couldn't find the words to speak. Why? Somehow, I managed to utter just that one word. Ken nodded in agreement.
I'll explain everything now.
Tyler said, then headed out of the room towards the living room. Ken and I followed him. I heard Emily squealing and screaming, "No," from the living room. On the dining table, there was a divorce form with Tyler's signature on it, which I didn't miss. Seeing my face, Emily threw a magazine and a decorative item she had at hand towards me. One of them nearly hit me. At that moment, Ken shielded me, and a small decorative item hit him in the face. Ken's glasses flew off in a random direction. Maybe Emily hadn't expected it to hit anyone. She stopped moving, and her eyes went wide. Shocked, I looked at Ken's face to see blood streaming down from near his temple. Tyler, with an incredibly stern look, approached Emily and pinned down her hands.
Do you even realize what you've done?
Tyler's voice was louder than I had ever heard it before. Emily collapsed on the spot as if her legs had given out.
I did nothing wrong. It's not my fault. It's her fault.
Emily kept repeating the same words, seemingly in shock. Tyler looked at me with a sad expression.
Right after we got married, Emily went to visit you, remember?
I tried to recall when that was. That moment, I realized what felt off back then. I just realized the discomfort I felt back then. Yes, Emily had visited me alone at that time. At that time, Emily came to me asking for a loan. It was a loan that Tyler didn't know about. So I said, first, you should talk to Tyler about it. At that time, she said, okay, and immediately went back home. Since she never came to me again to discuss it, I thought it was resolved. I kept this to myself, so Ken didn't know. Ken looked at me surprised. I'm sorry for keeping silent. I felt bad for Emily and didn't tell you.
I hate that goody two-shoes attitude of yours.
Suddenly, Emily lashed out at me with harsh words. That was quite a nasty way to speak.
About that loan, Emily had borrowed money from somewhere else and repaid it.
Then Tyler shared with me about Emily's spending habits. Emily has always been extravagant with money. She likes to use expensive ingredients and loves brand name goods. When Tyler met Emily, she already had debts. I talked to Emily, advising her not to take on any more debts. I also told her that if she didn't, I couldn't associate with her, and she agreed.
That time, Emily was apologizing while crying.
Tyler looked down at Emily sadly.
Anyway, I'm definitely not in the wrong. She's the one to blame.
Emily insisted she wasn't at fault, but it was unconvincing. Tyler and Ken looked at Emily with dispassionate eyes.
Cut it out. Enough, enough, enough.
Emily started crying and throwing a tantrum. We couldn't handle her and kept our distance. Just when Emily was about to smash a ceramic ornament on the floor, the baby in the crib started crying. As I rushed to soothe the baby, Emily yelled out,
"Shut up! Why is this brat crying?"
We were all shocked at Emily's outburst.
Everyone's just getting in my way, shut up.
The baby, startled by Emily's yelling, cried even harder. I tried to calm the crying baby, but there was no sign of stopping.
Enough with the noise. Make that brat stop crying.
This must be the real Emily, still speaking nastily. Emily's eyes were not sane. She seemed to have lost herself. Thinking of the baby's safety, I decided to take him to the nursery.
Where are you taking her?
Because I don't know what you might do.
Let go of my baby.
Emily was yelling.
Emily, firstly, put down that ornament you're holding.
Emily looked at the ceramic she was holding up.
Is it okay to show your baby this side of you?
Calmed by Ken's rational words, Emily seemed to come back to her senses. Quietly putting down the ornament, she covered her face with both hands. Emily started sobbing loudly. In the end, Ken and I decided to take care of the baby for the day. Let's leave Tyler and Emily to talk it over in their own time. The next day, Tyler came over to our house. His face looked worn, but there was a certain freshness to his expression. In the living room, Ken and I listened to what Tyler had to say. It was horrifying. The conversation from yesterday was about Emily's excessive spending. Even Tyler's attempts at persuasion couldn't curb her spending habits. In fact, Emily's spending had gotten even worse. Having borrowed money from everywhere, Emily had set her sights on our assets. When I heard this, I understood why Emily had looked around our house when she first came. She was checking to see if there was anything of value in the house, or if we were wealthy. She then tried to extract money from me. But after being refused, she seemed to bear a grudge. After that, she started treating me harshly. I was scared and shivered. It wasn't that I was mean and refused to lend her money. I just wanted them to discuss it as a couple first. But Emily took it the wrong way. Tyler's story didn't end there. Since Emily had been acting strange lately, Tyler had hired a private investigator. The investigation revealed Emily's affair. Moreover, she had conspired with her lover to steal Ken's life insurance money. I was shocked. You mean, they planned to make it look like an accident? Tyler nodded silently.
That was her plan.
Tyler continued painfully. Emily had been tormenting me to drive me out of the house. The plan was to get rid of Ken at the time I was kicked out. What a dreadful plan. Emily had concocted such a terrible scheme. I trembled and wrapped my arms around myself. After receiving the report, Tyler had decided on divorce. He was looking for the right moment to talk about it when this incident happened. Tyler said he was going to report this to the police.
We can't just stay silent about this.
Indeed, if we let this slide, Emily might repeat her actions. Thinking she could get away with it would only embolden her. And she might do the same, or even worse, again. Emily needs to be properly judged, Tyler said. Ken agreed. That would be best. I also told Tyler. Tyler reported to the police, and Emily was arrested. Since she was trying to unjustly claim the insurance money, her arrest was inevitable. Emily's diary detailed the plan to get the insurance money. Tyler and Emily's divorce was finalized while Emily was in jail. Emily apparently claimed custody, but of course, custody was granted to Tyler. Even the lawyers seemed dismayed by Emily's claim to custody. If Emily is prosecuted, she and her co-conspirator will likely receive prison sentences. I hope Emily seriously reflects and faces her crimes behind bars. Not only did it ruin Tyler's life, but it also caused a great deal of trouble for the child that was born. The assault on Ken did not become a legal case because Ken didn't file a complaint. It was a kindness unique to Ken. Since Emily left, peace has returned to my heart. I can sleep soundly at night, and I don't get palpitations anymore when I visit Tyler's house. Living with Ken, just the two of us, has been peaceful. The times when Emily was causing turmoil feel like a lie to me now. Tyler and my granddaughter are living together. Fortunately, Ken and I live nearby. We help with anything we can, including daycare drop-offs and pickups and meals. Above all, it's a joy to witness my granddaughter's growth up close. At this rate, Ken and I might be able to see our granddaughter's high school graduation. Because the granddaughter was a baby, she doesn't remember her mother. It might be sad, but it's probably for the best not having such a mother. Besides, it seems Tyler is seeing someone. My granddaughter whispered to me as if it were a secret. I'm looking forward to Tyler saying, "There's a woman I want you to meet."